Chapter 733. After the black-clad swordsman made up his mind, he wanted to charge forward and delay Xiao Chen. However, at this moment, a saber suddenly appeared in Xiao Chen's left hand. He placed his right hand on the saber and leaned forward slightly. In an instant, a boundless killing intent surged out. The black-clad swordsman felt like there were many eyes in the air, looking at him coldly and expressionlessly. This startled the black-clad swordsman. He quickly stopped, not daring to charge forward. Damn it! What's going on? It is clearly just a starting stance. Why am I so afraid? The black-clad swordsman's eyes were filled with horror. He could not help but want to retreat. Xiao! A saber light flashed, and the black-clad swordsman quickly swung his sword to block. However, he missed. Xiao Chen appeared at the black-clad swordsman's side, and blood spurted out. Xiao Chen had chopped off the black-clad swordsman's left arm. The black-clad swordsman cried out in pain. His complexion was as pale as paper as he retreated continuously. The four black-clad swordsmen lying on the ground felt confused. They had seen everything clearly. Xiao Chen's saber strike looked very ordinary, there was nothing special about it. Why did Big Brother not block it? This was the first time Xiao Chen used the starting stance of Qing Emperor drawing the saber in actual combat. The effect was pretty good. Right now, the instant Xiao Chen drew his saber, he could move in 16 different directions. Against an opponent one grade lower, he could defeat them in an instant. Situ Feng's eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at the scene before him. An early-stage medial-grade martial monarch actually lost so easily. Who exactly is this person before me? I have never heard of such a powerful white-robed bladesman in Clear Wind City, no, Hunluo Province. Let's go. Before Situ Feng could recover from his shock, he felt his body lighten. Then, he was carried into the air by Xiao Chen. The wind blew by Situ Feng's ears. As they flew, Situ Feng's mind was filled with questions, but he could not voice them. After flying for a long time, Xiao Chen slowly landed. Situ Feng stood firmly and immediately said, "Many thanks, friend, for saving my life. Would you tell me your great name?" After narrowly escaping death, Situ Feng could not help the joy in his eyes. When Xiao Chen interacted with strangers, he always kept his guard up. He did not say much and directly asked Ao Jiao's question from the immortal spirit ring, "Where did you learn your sword techniques?" Situ Feng was slightly stunned. After he reacted, he said, "I learned my sword techniques from the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. I was once an outer sect disciple there. After failing to become an inner sect disciple several times, I returned to my clan in Clear Wind City. What exactly are the origins of this person's sword techniques? You only took one look, and you want me to save him?" Xiao Chen asked out of curiosity. Ao Jiao replied softly, "That is the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadow's sword that the Thunder King comprehended himself when he was young. He has never taught it to anyone. I'm just curious as to how he learned it." Naturally, Situ Feng could not hear the conversation between the two. He bandaged his wounds and looked at Xiao Chen. "Friend, you probably offended the Lu clan by saving me. How about returning to the Sita clan with me? Is the Lu clan very strong?" Xiao Chen asked interestedly. Situ Feng had forgotten that Xiao Chen was an outsider, so he told him about this place in detail. This savage beast forest was already very close to Hunluo Province. The nearest city was Clear Wind City, a medium-sized city in Hunluo Province. There were two major factions in the city. One was the Lu clan, and the other was their Sita clan. The two clans were like fire and water, fighting each other for many years. The clan heads of the two clans were half-sages. Although they had been fighting each other for many years, their strengths were equal. Neither could do anything to the other. Since the clan head was only a half-sage, Xiao Chen relaxed. He rejected, "There is no need. I'll send you to the periphery of the forest and leave on my own." Situ Feng exclaimed in shock, "Their clan head is currently in this savage beast forest. If they discover you, you will not be able to escape death. In Situ Feng's opinion, although Xiao Chen was strong, he was only a late-stage superior-grade martial monarch at best. If a peak late-stage superior-grade martial monarch came, things would not be good. If Xiao Chen ran into a half-sage, there would be no chance of survival. He could only rely on the Situ clan to survive. Xiao Chen shook his head and rejected this person's invitation. This person had not said why the Lu clan was after him. Clearly, he did not trust Xiao Chen. At this moment, Situ Feng was clearly trying to rope Xiao Chen in. He wanted to use Xiao Chen and the Lu clan to tie him to the Situ clan's war chariot. Seeing that Xiao Chen had rejected his invitations several times, Situ Feng's attitude turned cold and he did not say anything more. We've arrived. Take care of yourself. After leaving the inner area of the savage beast forest, Xiao Chen looked around. After he discovered that there was no danger, he planned to leave. Situ Feng looked around and thought for a moment. He said, "Friend, there is a stronghold of my Situ clan not far from here. How about you send me there? At that time, our clan head will reward you greatly. At this moment, I have not recovered from my injuries. Any spirit beast would be able to take my life immediately. I will be completely safe once I reach the stronghold." Situ Feng had already sent a hummingbird to the Situ clan about what he discovered. The clan head would definitely be alerted and bring all the experts over. At that time, when the Situ clan fought with the Lu clan, an additional person would increase their chances of victory. With Xiao Chen's strength, he was definitely worth roping in. If Situ Feng could accomplish this, in addition to his earlier contributions, the clan head would reward him greatly. Xiao Chen thought for a while before saying, "It doesn't matter. You lead the way. I don't want to walk too much." Situ Feng rejoiced in his heart. He quickly led the way to the Situ clan's stronghold. The two of them moved quickly in the dense forest. Occasionally, spirit beasts would appear. Xiao Chen released his aura and scared them away. He did not delay at all. Soon, a heavily guarded stronghold appeared before the two of them. Two Situ clan cultivators descended from the treetops. Situ Feng revealed a smile and quickly went forward. He whispered a few words to them, and the two cultivators gave Xiao Chen a deep look before returning to the stronghold. When Xiao Chen saw this, he did not want to waste any more time. He said, "Goodbye, you are already completely safe. Friend, don't be in such a rush to leave." Seeing that Xiao Chen still wanted to leave, Situ Feng grabbed him by the wrist. He said somewhat anxiously, "Clan head, they will be out soon. There will be a great gift for you later." Xiao Chen frowned slightly. His body moved slightly, and he shook off Situ Feng's grip. "Ha ha! This friend is the young hero who killed the Lu clan cultivators." Carefree laughter resounded. The many cultivators at the stronghold's entrance clustered around a dignified, gray-robed old man as he walked quickly towards Xiao Chen. Situ Feng's face lit up with joy. He quickly went forward and whispered a few words into the gray-robed old man's ear. The gray-robed old man looked at Xiao Chen with an increasingly grave expression. He waved his hand, indicating for Situ Feng to step back. A faint smile appeared on his aged face. "This brother looks unfamiliar. You must be from somewhere else. Speak, what reward do you want? Since you saved my Situ clan's people, Situ Lei will definitely not mistreat you." The gray-robed old man stepped forward and spoke to Xiao Chen. His tone was very imposing. However, Xiao Chen noticed that the Situ clan experts behind the gray-robed old man had already spread out, forming a fan shape. The formation they stood in was very ingenious. As long as Xiao Chen made any strange movements, this group of people would immediately seal off Xiao Chen's path of retreat and surround and kill him. Xiao Chen's expression did not change. He held the lunar shadow saber in his left hand and casually took a step forward. His entire body formed a strange stance. Instantly, all the cultivators who had spread out in a fan-shaped formation felt that Xiao Chen was staring at them. Clearly, there was only one person and one pair of eyes. However, the stance he formed was very strange. It was like he could instantly draw his saber and chop down everyone. Old Sir is right. I am indeed from somewhere else. However, I was just passing by this place. Saving people is just something I did in passing. There is no need for any reward. Xiao Chen's expression did not change at all. When facing this half-sage Situlei, he did not show any fear at all. A boundless light flashed in the depths of Situlei's aged eyes. He wanted to see through this white-robed bladesman before him. This brat is clearly only a peak medial grade martial sage. Why is he not showing any fear before this old man? What trump card does he have for him to be so confident? Situlei did not show any dissatisfaction on his face. He smiled and said, "Young hero is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. This old man admires you. Since there is no need for any reward, let's have a drink in the fort. No matter what, we should have a good chat." A wily old fox was indeed a wily old fox. Situ Feng's careless and crude performance was laughable when compared to the unfathomable Situlei. Xiao Chen performed a cup-fist salute and said, "There is no need. I am in a rush, so I will take my leave first." When Situlei heard this, his expression did not change. He smiled faintly and said, "Take care. I will not send you off." However, Situlei made a gesture with his hand behind his back. That was the Situ clan's order to surround and kill Xiao Chen. Once the gesture was completed, it would be the order. The Situ clan cultivators would mercilessly attack Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense clearly captured the movements of this person behind his back. Without waiting for Situlei's gesture, Xiao Chen took the initiative to make his move. As Xiao Chen lowered his cupped hands, he placed his right hand on his saber's hilt. The Qing emperor's drawing the saber was ready. The cultivators who had spread out in a fan shape all felt a strand of saber light flying at them. Wang! The 10-odd people quickly drew their weapons and dodged to the left and right. The originally perfect encirclement immediately turned chaotic. Xiao Chen released his hand and withdrew his killing qi. His lips curled up as he smiled and said, "I'm sorry, old sir. I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. I think the hand behind old sir's back was also a joke, right?" Situlei had only completed half of the gesture behind his back. Before he could complete it, something unexpected happened. Situlei could not help but feel startled. However, his expression did not change. Situlei quickly withdrew his hand and extended it to Xiao Chen. As if nothing had happened, he laughed loudly and said, "Indeed, heroes come from the youth. Little brother's courage is admirable." Xiao Chen took 2 steps back and calmly turned around. Then, he left under the unfriendly gazes of the group of superior-grade martial monarchs. After moving a kilometer away, Xiao Chen revealed an expression of luck on his calm face. That had been very dangerous earlier. 1 half-sage, 10-odd superior-grade martial monarchs, and more than 100 medial-grade and inferior-grade martial monarchs. If Xiao Chen had really attacked, he would not have been able to leave without paying a heavy price. Chapter 734. However, it was still fine. Situlei feared Xiao Chen's strength and did not dare to take risks, fearing that he would suffer too many losses. The people of the Situ clan are all bad people. You saved that person, yet they still treat you like this, Ao Jiao said angrily from the immortal spirit ring. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. Then, he said, "Logically speaking, they do not know that I have a treasure on me and that I am just passing by. Not only do I not have any grudges with them, but they also owe me a favor. They should not have reacted like that." Ao Jiao's eyes wandered, and she revealed an expression of understanding on her delicate face. She said, "You mean to say that there is something fishy about this?" Xiao Chen leaped onto a tree branch beside him and silently extended his spiritual sense back. He nodded and said, "There is definitely something strange about this. I want to see what exactly is going on." At the gates of the stronghold, Situ Feng felt surprised. He asked, "Clan head, why are we just letting him go? This person is very strong and cannot be of use to us. He will be a source of trouble and disrupt our plans." At this moment, Situle's expression had already turned completely sullen, looking extremely terrifying. He looked coldly at the surrounding people and said, "So what if we do not let him go? The encirclement is already broken. It will be too difficult to keep him here. We might as well let him go, lest we gain another enemy. I do not want anything unexpected to happen while we are fighting for the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit." When Situ Feng heard this, he was greatly startled. Is that white-robed bladesman really that horrifying? Even the clan head said that it would be difficult to keep him here. However, it is not safe to just let him go. This person's origins are unknown. It is hard to say that he is not here for the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, an old man beside Situ Feng said worriedly. An old man said worriedly. This old man had a profound cultivation, and he was only a step away from the half-saint realm. He was the great elder of the Situ clan. Situle looked into the distance and said coldly, "Naturally, we have to be on guard. Find 2 people who are good at tracking and have them follow him from afar. See if he is really just passing by. If he is not, we have to spend a lot of effort to kill him. The Lu clan's people are already having a headache. I will not allow anyone to fish in troubled waters." The voice was bone-chilling and emotionless, devoid of any warmth. Xiao Chen, who was on the tree branch, withdrew his spiritual sense and suddenly understood. He muttered, "So, that is how it is." The white nascent fruit had similar effects to the earth essence fruit. It could increase a cultivator's cultivation without any side effects. However, normally, the peak white nascent fruit could only live for 500 years. The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was extremely rare. It would not be an exaggeration to call it a mutated fruit. Its effects could even tempt martial sages. If the clan obtained it and gave it to the Situ clan to break through to half-sage, the martial sage Shao would not be. 1 half-sage was equivalent to 50 superior-grade martial monarchs. In that case, the balance between the Situ clan and the Lu clan of Azure Peak City would be broken. No matter who, the Tian, the other clan would. The clan would be, and would be. And would. Chen, Lei would be, Chen. Tutu. Hey, Trash Master, you can't be thinking of something, right? You have to think clearly. With the strength of the 2 families added together, it's impossible for us to win. Chen Yu Chen Chen, to say. Chen, A. Chen. When Ao Jiao saw that Xiao Chen was tempted, she reminded him. Xiao Chen said softly, "I do have such intentions. To break through to superior-grade martial monarch, I would need at least 200 medial-grade spirit-gathering pearls. That is an astronomical sum. This 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit is practically made for me." Ao Jiao continued to advise, "However, it is too difficult to snatch food from the tiger's mouth from 2 half-sages. Furthermore, they have a group of martial monarch experts behind them." Xiao Chen leaped down from the tree branch and said calmly, "I know my limits. There are strong and weak half-sages. Clearly, these 2 are much weaker than Bai Wuxue and the others. The most important thing is that these 2 are not united. Given that, I have a good chance." Shua. Shua. Soft footsteps resounded. Xiao Chen scanned the area with his spiritual sense and saw 2 black-clad men sneaking around. They stuck to a tree 500 meters away, watching him carefully. The 2 black-clad men withdrew their auras. They were like a rock, showing no signs of life force as they stuck to the tree. Their concealment skills were very impressive. Unfortunately, Xiao Chen's spiritual sense was much stronger than the mental energy that regular cultivators use to sense. At such a close distance, Xiao Chen could not keep any secrets from them. After withdrawing his spiritual sense, Xiao Chen continued walking forward as if nothing had happened. There did not seem to be anything wrong with him. However, a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. The stronghold of Azure Peak City's Lu clan in the Savage Beast Forest was also a heavily guarded mountain stronghold with many experts. There were many wooden houses in the mountain stronghold. The guards were stationed every 5 steps and 10 steps. Everyone had a tense expression on their faces. The Lu clan's upper echelon gathered in one of the wooden houses, anxiously discussing countermeasures. The rectangular mahogany table was filled with the elders of the Lu clan. Behind the tables and chairs stood a crowd of cultivators. For the sake of the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, the Lu clan sent out all its elites. Even the weakest Lu clan disciple here was a medial-grade martial monarch. Seated at the top of the mahogany table was an old man dressed in a black brocade robe. He had a dignified expression on his face. He was the Lu clan's patriarch, Lu Qin. Beside him stood a young man. This was Lu En's eldest son, Lu En's. He was already a peak superior grade martial monarch. If Lu En's obtained the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, he would use it to break through to half-sage. Patriarch, this subordinate is incompetent and allowed Situ Feng to escape in the end. The black-clothed swordsman, who only had his right arm left, knelt on the ground, not daring to get up. Lu Qin said expressionlessly, "Get up. It does not matter whether you catch him or not." After he discovered our goal, he immediately used a hummingbird to send the news to that old man, Situ Lei. An old man on his right said helplessly, "Our scouts have reported. Situ Lei has already led all the experts of the clan to the gathering point in the Savage Beast Forest. It looks like it will be even more difficult to pick the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit this time." It was impossible for there to be no spirit beasts guarding the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. When it fully ripened, it might even attract spirit beasts from far away. Trying to obtain the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit from among these spirit beasts was already difficult enough. Now, with the addition of the Situ clan, the number of variables had increased significantly. Lu Qin could not help but worry. A ferocious light appeared in Lu Qin's eyes. No one dared to look at him directly. He said coldly, "There can only be one clan in Azure Peak City. This old man has had enough of that old man, Situ Lei. Since he dares to come, this is a good opportunity to destroy him." A strange light appeared in Lu En's eyes. He said, "Father, a mysterious white-robed bladesman saved Situ Feng. That white-robed bladesman easily injured 5 martial monarchs. We have to guard against him." Hatred flashed in the eyes of the one-armed black-clothed swordsman. He said, "Indeed, clan head, that person has a strange background and is very strong. If the Situ clan supports the Situ clan when the white nascent fruit ripens, it will be very disadvantageous for us." The Situ clan and the Lu clan were evenly matched. If one side received help, the balance would be broken. This person was not lying. Ends, bring some people to investigate. If it is just a passing cultivator, then forget about it. This is a critical period. Do not complicate matters, Lu Qin said after thinking for a while. The one-armed black-clothed swordsman said anxiously, "Clan head, he injured a cultivator of my Lu clan and chopped off one of my arms. How can we just let this go?" Lu Qin's gaze turned cold as he looked at the one-armed black-clothed swordsman. He said in a frosty voice, "You piece of trash. Not only did you let someone leak the news, but you even dare to question my decision." The one-armed black-clothed swordsman's heart skipped a beat. When he felt Lu Qin's killing chi, his body trembled and he did not dare to say anything more. As dusk approached, Shaochen found an empty space and started a fire. Then, he started to roast some spirit beast meat that he had hunted. The 2 scouts of the Situ clan silently hid in a tree 500 meters away. They withdrew their auras and only used their peripheral vision to observe Shaochen. They were very careful and cautious, afraid of attracting Shaochen's attention. Speaking of which, Ao Jiao, what is the relationship between that eternal heavenly sword school and the Thunder King? Why does he have the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadows sword? If Situ Feng had not used this sword technique, Shaochen would have left long ago. It would be a lie to say that he was not curious. Ao Jiao, who was in the Immortal Spirit Ring, felt very suspicious as well. Her delicate face filled with confusion. She said softly, "I don't know. I don't recall the Thunder King establishing his own sect." Crunch. Crunch. The golden beef of the golden savage ox, which had been picked up by a tree branch, gave off crunching sounds as the flames roasted it. The surface of the beef cracked open, and golden oil flowed out. The aroma of the beef whetted one's appetite. Xiaochen twirled the tree branch in a practiced manner. As he looked at the golden beef, he asked, since he did not establish a sect, did the Thunder King leave behind any secret manuals? Ao Jiao replied without hesitation, he did leave behind secret manuals. However, I am sure that no one else obtained them. There is no possibility of them leaking out. Then, did he have any disciples? If he did, it would not be surprising if they leaked out, Xiaochen continued asking. Ao Jiao shook her head and said, Sangmu has always been a loner. He did not even have many friends. How could he have a disciple? There were no secret manuals or inheritors. However, 2,000 years later, when Ao Jiao came to the Kunlun realm again, she saw the Thunder King's Thunderlight fleeing Shadow's sword. This was indeed strange. The golden beef was already cooked. Xiaochen tore off a piece of beef and enjoyed the delicacy. Then, he took out a flask of wine from the universe ring and drank it. Xiaochen sat by the bonfire and ate large chunks of meat, feeling very carefree. After the meat and wine were done, Xiaochen stood up and stretched his body. Then, he held the lunar shadow saber in his hand and said softly, Actually, we will know the truth after we make a trip to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. Of course, that is on the premise that I can survive and obtain the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Right after Xiaochen spoke, he quickly turned around and instantly drew the lunar shadow saber. The resplendent saber light instantly lit up the dark forest. 500 meters away, the tree hiding the two Situ clan cultivators exploded. The two Situ clan cultivators were completely exposed to Xiaochen. Let's go. This person discovered us long ago. The two Situ clan cultivators were greatly startled. Without saying anything else, they split up and ran. Xiaochen looked at the Situ clan cultivator on the left and smiled faintly. He pushed off the ground, and an azure dragon image appeared under his feet, carrying him into the air. The two scouts were good at hiding and tracking. Their cultivations were not high, they were only early-stage inferior-grade martial monarchs. How could they be a match for Xiaochen? Chapter 735. Even if Xiaochen used only half his strength, he could easily kill two people. The dragon image moved up and down, and Xiaochen instantly caught up to that person. Xiaochen did not waste any words. He infused his vast lightning-attributed quintessence into his saber and killed that person in one strike. The blood on the saber exploded into a red mist by the electric light. When it spread out, a red light spread out. Xiaochen narrowed his eyes and peered through the red light. Then, he started to chase after the remaining person. When that person heard his companion's miserable scream, he paled in fright. He died in one exchange. Who exactly was the person the clan had told them to follow? Blue Dragon Tail Whip. A strong wind blew, and Xiaochen's body moved in an arc. He passed by many towering trees, bringing with him a strong gust of wind. With a so sound, he suddenly appeared in front of that person. That person quickly ran away. Xiaochen's casual kick carried 500 tons of force. Everywhere it passed, space trembled. Bang! Xiaochen's foot landed on that person's chest at lightning speed, breaking his sternum. The force surged through his body, rupturing his internal organs. That person vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back with a pained expression. His back crashed into a tree and he could not help but vomit another mouthful of blood. Xiaochen sheathed his saber and walked over calmly. As his footsteps got closer, that person's eyes filled with boundless despair and pain. Let me ask you a question. If you want to live, tell me the truth, Xiaochen said indifferently as he looked at the other party. not showing any emotion at all. Xiao Chen's overwhelming strength and unparalleled sharpness caused this person's mind to be in chaos. He did not dare to disobey. "What question?" that person asked in a quivering voice as he leaned against the tree. Xiao Chen looked coldly at the other party and said, "Tell me everything you know about the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Tell me everything in detail." That person's heart skipped a beat. He instinctively wanted to quibble, so he said, "I don't." Bang. Before Xiao Chen could say that he knew, he kicked this person's chest again. The powerful force caused the tree behind this person to break apart with a loud boom. His body was sent flying backwards. After landing on the ground, the man rolled on the ground. His internal organs were all damaged, and his sternum was broken. His face was pale, without any trace of blood. Xiao Chen stepped forward and said calmly, "Even if you don't tell me, I can find out from others. Now, I will ask you again. Are you going to tell me or not?" Seeing Xiao Chen's decisiveness, that person had a pained expression as he looked at Xiao Chen in fear. Not daring to hesitate any longer, he said, I'll talk, I'll tell you everything, just don't kill me." After listening to the other party's story, Xiao Chen had a thorough understanding of the matter. The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit needed another 7 days to ripen. This was the reason why the two clans did not rush to make a move. There was also a rank 9 spirit beast guarding the white nascent fruit. When it ripened, it would attract even more strong spirit beasts. "Give me a message to Situlei. Tell him that he went back on his word. I am very angry." After saying that, Xiao Chen gently pushed off the ground and quickly left this place. "Are you really not afraid of him snitching? Are you really going to let him go?" Ao Jiao asked, feeling it was strange. If Situlei found out that Xiao Chen wanted the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, he would be seeking trouble for himself. Xiao Chen had a calm expression. He smiled and said, "Since I made a promise, there is no need to kill him. Furthermore, if he returns alive, he might even be able to help me." Situlei is a shrewd person with age. He is suspicious and cautious. This is a matter of life and death for his clan. He will be even more careful. From the Situ clan cultivators, Xiao Chen already knew where the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was. It was on a small slope near the savage beast forest. Without needing to think too much, Xiao Chen could guess that the Situ clan and Lu clan cultivators were near the slope. It would be irrational for him to go there now. After all, there were still 7 more days before the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit ripened. There was no rush. After muttering to himself for a while, Xiao Chen took out the painting of the Qing Emperor drawing the saber from the universe ring and slowly unfurled it. When the painting was completely unfurled, it gently drifted over and hovered in front of Xiao Chen. The might of the Qing Emperor's drawing the saber in actual combat was extraordinary. Xiao Chen had experienced it firsthand. This was just a superficial understanding of it, and it already had such combat prowess. If it improved further, it would be even more incredible. Xiao Chen's interest in this mysterious painting deepened. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Chen looked at the person in the painting. The person in the painting wore blue dragon battle robes. His long hair fluttered wildly, and his appearance was delicate and handsome. If others looked carefully, they would discover that Xiao Chen looked very similar to this person. However, his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life, as if they were ancient. It was unknown how many years this person had experienced for such a deep gaze. Xiao. A saber light flashed, and the person in the painting suddenly moved. However, it was not clear whether the saber moved first or the person moved first. Xiao Chen had seen the trajectory of this saber before. Although he could not clearly see the other party's figure, based on his vague perception, Xiao Chen quickly drew his saber and blocked this saber. To others, Xiao Chen did not move at all, as if he was meditating. However, at this moment, Xiao Chen's mental state fluctuated intensely. This battle was even more intense than the one with Bai Wuxue, exhausting his mental state by several times. After 10 seconds, Xiao Chen's complexion paled and he took 10 steps back. After a while, the horror in his eyes slowly disappeared. 10 seconds. I finally managed to block 32 saber strikes. I also discovered 2 different trajectories of the saber strikes. Xiao Chen put away the painting and closed his eyes. Then, he started to comprehend the intense mental state battle. Time passed slowly. At some point in time, Xiao Chen's hand had already grasped the saber hilt at his waist, forming a strange stance. Many illusionary figures leaped out of Xiao Chen's body, hacking at the towering trees in front. All sorts of scenes appeared in Xiao Chen's mind. Saber lights danced around, and electric light shot out. Each figure had a different trajectory of the saber strike. The saber lights chopped the trees in half in Xiao Chen's mind. Leaves flew everywhere, and strong winds blew. When the 34 figures leaped out, Xiao Chen opened his eyes at an appropriate time. His aura blended in with the surroundings. Xiao Chen clearly only had a pair of eyes, but he locked onto all 34 trees in front, unable to distinguish which were real or fake. Xiao. Following the feeling in his heart, Xiao Chen naturally drew the saber in his hand. The saber light was resplendent and dazzling. In the dark night, it was like a blazing sun, shining brightly. Ka-xie. Ka-xie. The 34 trees in front were instantly chopped in half at the waist. Rows of trees fell with a loud rumble. The remaining tree trunks were all of different heights and gaps. When Xiao Chen saw this scene, he could not help but rejoice. It turned out that the saber could really be drawn like this. If it was just the instant the saber was drawn, one could split the saber chi into 34 parts. Although such a technique was difficult, it was still possible for an expert bladesman of the younger generation to do it. However, to achieve a different trajectory, position, and strength for each strand of saber chi, aside from a true grandmaster level senior, no one else in the younger generation could do it. First young master, there is some movement over there. Let's go over and take a look. Suddenly, Xiao Chen's sharp ears picked up footsteps and the voices of cultivators. He could not help but frown slightly. Xiao Chen scanned with his spiritual sense and discovered 8 superior-grade martial monarchs of the Lu clan 3 kilometers away. Under the leadership of a young man, they were rushing over here at high speed. Saber lights danced around, chopping the trees in front into pieces. Then, Xiao Chen wiped away the traces of his training. Xiao Chen leaped into the air and withdrew his aura, hiding in a nearby tree. Dong! 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 The footsteps drew closer. The people led by Lu Enz appeared at the place where Xiao Chen had practiced his saber. Lu Enz casually looked around. The trees in front had been chopped into pieces by the saber chi. Then, he closed his eyes and sensed the remnant lightning attributed quintessence in the air. After a while, he opened his eyes and said, "Look around. They look similar to the target. They are lightning attributed bladesmen. After discovering them, sound the alarm immediately." The one-armed black-clad swordsman followed beside Lu Enz and did not leave with the others. The black-clad swordsman was not strong in the first place. Now that he had lost an arm, his combat prowess decreased even more. Lu Enz brought the black-clad swordsman mainly because he wanted the black-clad swordsman to help him identify the target. Lu Enz held his sword and asked interestedly, "Lu Hua, how strong is that white-robed bladesman? Tell me objectively." Hatred flashed in Lu Hua's eyes. When he recalled Xiao Chen's attack, he could not help but reveal an expression of horror. Very strong. His cultivation is not high, but his saber techniques are very strange. I clearly judged the trajectory of his saber. However, I still missed when I was about to attack. Lu Enz's lips curled up in a smile. He said, changing moves at the last minute. It looks like he is a bladesman with sharp eyes and extremely fast attacks. When Lu Hua heard this, he hesitated for a while. Then, he said, "First young master, he was indeed very fast." However, this subordinate felt that he did not change his move at the last minute. Lu En's expression turned grave. He could not understand. He said, since you already judged the trajectory of his saber, and he did not change his move at the last minute, logically speaking, you should have been able to receive that saber strike. Lu Hua could tell that Lu En suspected that his judgment was wrong, that he had been fooled by a feint. He quickly denied it. First young master, I dare say that this subordinate's judgment was correct. Lu En's glanced at Lu Hua's mutilated arm and smiled in disdain. However, he did not say anything. So. After the 8 superior grade martial monarchs who went out to search failed to find anything, they shot back like arrows and landed before Lu En's. Reporting to first young master, we did not find that person, the black-clad men reported in unison. They looked at Lu En's, showing their absolute loyalty. They should be death-sworn soldiers trained by the Lu clan. Xiao Chen, who had already hidden himself in the tree, heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. He was not afraid of these 8 people. Instead, he was afraid of being discovered and exposing his strength. Before the white nascent fruit ripened, the Lu clan would target him. Lu En's asked doubtfully, not even a single trace. Not a single trace. We did not discover anything. When Lu En's heard this, he laughed loudly. He said, how could there be no trace at all? Even if he heard our footsteps and left in advance, he would have left some traces in his haste. Chapter 736. Lu Enyan withdrew her smile and showed a sullen expression. She shouted, this person is definitely nearby. Destroy all the trees within 500 meters. Do not leave a single one alive. Blast them all to pieces. Yes. The 8 black-clad martial monarchs leaped into the air and quickly carried out Lu En's orders. Surging sword lights swept out in all directions. Bang! 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 The sword chi rampaged in all directions, and the towering trees were instantly turned into sawdust in the face of this heavy sword chi. The tree Xiao Chen was hiding in was the first to be attacked. He sighed and had no choice but to reveal himself. Tree shards filled the air like snowflakes. Xiao Chen flew backward and landed on a tree branch. So. Lu En's led the 8 superior grade martial monarchs and leaped into the air. They landed on a few trees that were not attacked and surrounded Xiao Chen. Lu En's looked at Xiao Chen and asked the one-armed black-clad swordsman on the ground, Lu Hua, is that him? Lu Hua was very excited. His body trembled as he shouted, first young master, it is him. He is the one who saved Situ Feng and injured our brothers. Lu En's raised his head and looked at Xiao Chen. His expression turned sullen as he said, you are rather bold. You injured my Lu clan's people, yet you did not mix with the Situ clan's people and did not leave quickly. You are doing this for the white nascent fruit, right? Xiao Chen's expression did not change. Even though he was surrounded by 8 people, he did not panic. He said calmly, I do not know what you are talking about. A murderous intent flashed in Lu En's eyes. When he thought of his father's instructions, he said coldly, you better not know. I'll give you a chance now. Scram out of the savage beast forest immediately, and the matter of you saving Situ Feng will be written off. Trying to threaten Xiao Chen to leave. Too naive. Xiao Chen smiled coldly to himself. He said indifferently, it is not up to you to decide who I save. It is even less up to you to decide whether I leave or not. Lu En's expression turned cold as killing intent surged in his eyes. He placed his right hand on the hilt of his saber and said, I dare you to say that again. It was a very common line, but Xiao Chen had no intention of paying attention to him at all. There were some words that he had always disdained to say a second time. Since you say that I don't have the guts, then I'll use my actions to prove it. Whether I have the guts or not, there's no need to talk so much. Xiao Chen placed his right hand on the saber hilt and quickly condensed the aura of the Qing emperors drawing the saber, merging it with the surrounding environment. Xiao Chen instantly drew the lunar shadow saber. The resplendent purple saber light was as bright as the sun, shining brightly. Xiao! 9 strands of purple saber qi instantly flew out from different trajectories. The saber lights were dazzling, and the saber qi looked like rainbows flickering with electricity. All 9 of them, including Lu En's, were astonished. Xiao Chen's saber aura had enveloped all of them. It seemed that everyone could become his target. However, logically speaking, he only had 1 saber and 1 pair of eyes. It was impossible for him to attack 9 people at once. All of this was just an illusion. However, the reality defied common sense. Xiao Chen's saber really struck 9 people. Furthermore, the trajectory and strength of each saber strike were all different. At this moment, common sense was completely overturned. Clang clang clang. The sword light and the saber qi collided, and quintessential essence exploded, emitting a powerful shockwave that directly chopped down a large tree. With one slash, he easily disrupted the formation of the 9 people, throwing them into chaos. Soaring dragon, Xiao Chen rode the dragon and flew up. The cyan dragon image carried him and directly flew in front of Lu En's, quickly using ghost image chop. Thunder roared without end. The saber lights were like ghostly shadows, hard to distinguish between the real and the fake. Lu En's flicked his wrist and a blue sword flower appeared, blocking the saber light. However, the veritable essence energy and immortal state of thunder contained in the saber far surpassed his expectations. With each saber strike, Lu En's retreated 100 meters in the air. After 72 attacks, he had already retreated more than 7 kilometers. A strong wind formed by veritable essence energy swept out. Everywhere the two passed, towering trees were uprooted, and long gullies appeared in the ground. After the 72 attacks were completed, the saber qi containing the immortal state of thunder immediately formed a vast sea of lightning that exploded. Lu En's reaction speed was very impressive. Before the sea of lightning formed, he quickly executed his heaven-ranked martial technique. 9 dazzling blue balls of sword light surrounded Xiao Chen's body and quickly spun around. Xiao Chen glared, his hair scattered, and his clothes fluttered wildly. Boom! The sea of lightning clashed with the 9 balls of veritable essence energy. A surging energy surged out, and the ground actually sank. After that, countless specks of dust shot out like cannonballs, forming a huge pit around the two. Lu En's held the advantage in terms of veritable essence energy. However, Xiao Chen's state was immortal, and his physical body was much stronger. In such a head-on clash, while the two looked equal, in reality, Xiao Chen's injuries were much smaller than Xiao Chen's. Pu Ci. In the end, Lu En's could no longer hold on. The 9 balls of blue veritable essence energy shattered, and he vomited a mouthful of blood as he went flying back. Xiao Chen, who was hidden in the sea of lightning, revealed a cold gaze. Then, an untraceable saber light flashed. Dang! The saber light originally wanted to pierce through Lu En's heart. However, Lu En's hid a tough heart-protecting mirror on his chest. It was unknown what rank this secret treasure was, but it completely blocked Xiao Chen's saber light. Xiao Chen managed to survive. However, the veritable essence energy contained in the saber could not be blocked by the heart-protecting mirror. The huge impact caused Lu En's to vomit another mouthful of blood. Lu En's body flew high into the air and tumbled on the ground before he climbed back up in a sorry state. Lu En's looked at Xiao Chen with some horror in his eyes. Now, it was clear whether Xiao Chen dared to say that or not. Lu En's scanned the area with his spiritual sense. The 8 black-clad martial monarchs, who he had shaken off, would arrive soon. This Lu En's did not look like a good-for-nothing young master. It was not worth dragging things out for the sake of killing this group of people until the other side's main force arrived. Xiao Chen sheathed his saber, and the blue dragon under his feet circled around. Then, he soared into the sky, carrying Xiao Chen. First young master, are you all right? The 8 black-clad martial monarchs did not chase after Xiao Chen. Instead, they quickly surrounded Lu En's, protecting him tightly. Lu En's coughed, and blood leaked out of a corner of his lips. He said with some lingering fear, Lu Hua was right. This person's saber techniques defied common sense. His state contained mysteries, and his physical body was terrifyingly strong. Aside from my father, no one in the Lu clan can suppress him. We have to send news back quickly. We have to eliminate this person. Savage Beast Forest, Situ clan's stronghold. When Situ Lei heard the news from the scout, he was astonished. He said, "Are you saying that not only did the white-robed bladesmen discover you, but the other person also died at his hands?" The scout lowered his head and said, "He is too strong. We are not a match for him at all." Situ Lei looked suspiciously at this person. He asked sullenly, "Since that is the case, why did he let you return?" The scout's heart trembled. When he thought of Situ Lei's horrifying means, he quickly explained, "He told me to bring back a message." He said that the clan head went back on his word and that he was very angry. As for Xiao Chen's interrogation about the white nascent fruit, he had leaked the secret in the end. Naturally, he would not say anything. Otherwise, he would not be able to escape death. Situ Lei thought quickly, what does he mean by saying that I went back on my word? Is he blaming me for sending people to follow him? He is very angry. Is he threatening me? Never mind, it is not wise to offend a ruthless person at such a crucial moment. As long as he is not here to snatch the white nascent fruit, it is fine. So what if a scout dies? However, just as Situ Lei was about to speak, he noticed that the scout's hand, hidden in his sleeve, was trembling violently. "Kneel." Situ Lei's expression changed as he suddenly shouted. His voice was like thunder and as majestic as a mountain. The majesty that Situ Lei had accumulated over the years suddenly erupted, causing the guilty scout to panic. He immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed, begging for mercy, "Clan head, please spare me. That person forced me to say the matter of the white nascent fruit. I definitely did not take the initiative to say it." Situ Lei's face sank. He said in a cold voice, "What a deep scheme. I nearly fell for it. Letting him return alive is better than killing him. This is clearly a better way to eliminate my suspicions. Strong strength, calm, and decisive mind. This person must be eliminated." Situ Lei casually kicked the scout in front away. Then, he instructed his subordinates, "Pass down my orders. Search for that white-robed bladesman with all your might. I will personally lead a team to kill this person." On the other side, a similar scene played out in the Lu clan's stronghold. When Lu Chen heard Lu En's report, he was greatly startled. After a while, Lu Chen instructed, "Search for this person with all your might. I will personally lead a team. How can we let someone take advantage of the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit?" It was easy to understand why the two of them made the same decision. They were not afraid of an enemy in the open, they were afraid of a strong opponent hiding in the dark. Anyone would fear such an enemy. There were still 7 more days before the white nascent fruit matured. By eliminating a variable, they would feel more at ease. When the sky brightened, Xiaoqin clearly felt that the atmosphere in the forest was different. The Situ clan and the Lu clan, these two clans that had feuded with each other, seemed to have come to a tacit understanding and worked together. With the hillside with the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit as the center, the Situ clan spread out in a fan shape and started a thorough search. With such a dense search, no matter how well Xiaoqin hid, he was discovered in the end. The ones who discovered him were a group of cultivators from the Situ clan. Their cultivations were not high, so Xiaoqin did not have to spend much effort to kill them all. However, the other party had also successfully sounded the alarm, exposing Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin felt 2 extremely strong auras heading for him. They did not hide their auras at all. Everywhere they passed, the spirit beasts gave way. As Xiaoqin looked in the direction of the approaching people, he frowned and said, "The 2 clan heads actually made a move personally. It looks like they are determined to get this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit." Xiaoqin was probably in trouble now. the thing that he worried about the most had happened. With a half-sage leading the team and the trump cards in his hands, it would be easy for him to escape. However, with two half-sages working together, unless he used all his trump cards, it would be impossible for him to leave easily. Xiaochen pushed off the ground and leaped onto a tree branch. Then, he nimbly moved through the forest. With one gentle leap, he traveled 500 meters. Xiaochen left many trees behind him. Chapter 737. Not long after Situlei left, he appeared where Xiaochen had been. The ground was strewn with the corpses of 5 or 6 Situ clan cultivators. All of them had died in one strike. Some of them had not even drawn their weapons. Whoosh! 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 The superior grade martial monarchs of the Situ clan, who were slower, landed one after another. When they saw the corpses on the ground, they were greatly startled. What a fast saber! Situlei's expression turned somewhat grave. He felt a chill run down his spine. If such a horrifying person attacked him from behind, it would be extremely dangerous. Xiao! Sonic booms resounded. Situlei did not even turn his head as he said, "He is here." The person who arrived was Situlei's nemesis, the Azure Peak City's Lu clan's clan head, Lu Qin. Lu Qin did not say a word. He only looked calmly at the corpses on the ground. However, the Situ clan cultivators behaved as though they were facing a great enemy, feeling incredibly nervous. Soon, the superior grade martial monarchs of the Lu clan landed one after another. When they saw the corpses on the ground, they revealed similarly horrified expressions. Situlei turned around and looked meaningfully at Lu Qin. He said calmly, "Old fogey Lu, you and I have fought for decades. You should know what I am thinking now, right?" Lu Chen's wrinkled eyes squinted slightly. He smiled and said, "Given our characters, we are not willing to let others take advantage of us. I know what you are thinking. Good. Before the white nascent fruit ripens, our clans will put aside our past grudges and deal with this person with all our might. What do you think?" Situlei said sullenly with a bright gleam in his eyes. Lu Qin revealed a sinister smile on his aged face. He said, "That is exactly what I am thinking." The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The two clans, which were like fire and water, were actually prepared to work together to deal with a common enemy under the pressure of Xiaochen. If news of this spread, it would startle the entire Azure Peak City. Situlei looked in the direction that Xiaochen had taken. He said calmly, "Aside from you and me, no one else can stop this brat. My opinion is that once we discover this brat, we should immediately attack together. You and I, let's attack together immediately. Don't hold back, lest we increase the number of casualties." Last night, Lu Enz had already told Lu Qin about Xiaochen's strength. Now that he saw the corpses before him, Lu Qin could not help but feel astonished. Even though Lu Qin had not seen Xiaochen before, he had a rough guess of Xiaochen's strength. He felt that Situlei was not exaggerating. Cultivators of the two clans filled this small area. Furthermore, Xiaochen was not familiar with the Qin. Even if they had the advantage of speed, they would still be discovered by the cultivators of the two clans from time to time. They could not truly calm down. 3 days later, even after Xiaochen did everything he could, he still could not shake off the cultivators of the two clans. After a while, Situlei and Lu Qin finally blocked his way. In front Xiaochen Chen smiled. Situlei's Chen. Behind him, Lu Qin held a sword as he looked expressionlessly at Xiaochen's back. Several cultivators hid in the forest on both sides. They leaped around and formed a huge encirclement, blocking all of Xiaochen's paths. "Little brother, you really made this old man look for you for the past few days," Situlei said sullenly as he pointed his spear at Xiaochen. In the past few days, the number of cultivators of the two clans that died at Xiaochen's hands was uncountable. The people who came here were all elites. They had spent a lot of resources to nurture them. Anyone would feel frustrated if they died like that. Even though two half-sages blocked his path, Xiaochen did not panic. He smiled and said, "The two of you really think highly of me. To think that you are working together to deal with a junior. Ha! I want to see if you can still smile later. Old Fogey Lu, attack." Sparks flew on the tip of the spear. Situlei pushed his wrist forward, and the spear became like a dragon, roaring as it carried Situlei. In that instant, sand and pebbles flew, and a strong wind howled. Situlei unleashed his half-sage aura. Even the sky changed color. Lu Chen's gaze turned cold as he attacked at the same time. An icy blue light flickered on his sword, and a strong sword intent spread out. Lu Chen's hair fluttered wildly as his clothes fluttered. He pushed off the ground, and his sword hummed as he thrust it at Xiaochen. When the two half-sages arrived, the auras of two half-sages pressed towards Xiaochen like mountains. Regular martial monarchs would not even need to make a move. Under the pressure of such auras, they would find it hard to move. They would not even be able to breathe and would be instantly blasted into bits. However, these two were too naive to think that they could suppress Xiaochen, who had consumed 10-odd monarch blood grass, with their auras. After activating the power of his bloodline, the ancient sovereign's aura in Xiaochen's body surged out. A noble, ancient, vast sovereign's aura spread out, clashing with the half-sage auras of the two without any fear. Bang! 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 The formless auras clashed, giving off loud sounds in the air. Suddenly, small hurricanes formed and surged out in all directions. The hurricanes swept through the trees on both sides. The lush leaves were immediately swept away, leaving only bare tree trunks. The cultivators of the two clans hidden in the trees quickly moved out of the way. Before the ancient sovereign's aura, Situlei and Lu Chen could not help but pause for a moment. They were clearly caught off guard. Xiaochen squinted and took advantage of this opportunity. He quickly drew his saber with his right hand. This was the Qing Emperor's drawing the saber, which he had gained a basic understanding of. The boundlessly resplendent purple saber qi split into two, moving in two different trajectories as they attacked the openings the two revealed. Dang! 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 Two metallic clangs resounded. Situlei and Lu Chen, two half-sages, were actually forced back by Xiaochen's saber. However, a half-sage was still a half-sage in the end. After Xiaochen adapted to the sovereign's aura, he charged over again. The overwhelming attacks carried vast quintessence, looking like dark clouds covering the ground. Their auras were startling, and their might was unparalleled. Xiaochen received 10 moves head-on. His qi and blood surged, and his arms went slightly numb. Although he did not suffer any substantial injuries, the situation was not good. He could not retaliate at all. The difference in cultivation is too great. Even if I exhaust all my trump cards, I cannot take down two half-sages for now. At best, I can fight them to a draw. There are still so many cultivators eyeing me covetously. If I run out of quintessence, I will not be able to escape death. I have to think of a way to get them to give up on chasing me. After all, their ultimate goal is the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit and not to fight with half-sages. Amid the strong wind, Xiaochen received the attacks of the two. He quickly thought about what to do. Unknowingly, 100 moves had passed. Beside the forest, the cultivators of the two clans widened their eyes as they watched. They all had incredulous expressions. Unexpectedly, this fellow lasted 100 moves against the attacks of two half-sages without showing any signs of weakening. Situlei's spear light trembled as he said sullenly, "Old Fogey Lu, it's time to make your killing move." Their opponent was unexpectedly difficult to deal with, causing the two to lose some patience. Lu Chen nodded and said, "Kill him in one move." Xiaochen suppressed the energy in his body. With a thought, the two are going to use their heaven-ranked martial techniques. My chance might be here. 9-ring starburst. Lu Chen shouted ferociously, and 9 blue balls of sword qi appeared around him. Each ball of sword chi was compressed and contained horrifying might. The balls of sword chi circled around Lu Chen frantically. Lu Chen's aura soared, and strong winds blew in all directions like sabers. Ka! 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 Without any time to react, the towering trees were chopped into pieces by the wind blades. The surrounding cultivators of the two clans revealed horrified expressions as they quickly fled. The might of this move in Lu Chen's hands was more than 10 times stronger than Lu En's. They were on a completely different level. Lu Chen pointed his sword into the distance, and the 9 balls of sword chi merged into one. A dazzling light shot towards Xiao Chen. 10,000 swords hummed in the air, clanging endlessly. On the other side, 9 berserk flaming dragons soared up behind Situlei. The flaming dragons were 100 meters long, and flames surged out. They reared their heads back and roared with a startling aura. Situlei grasped his spear with both hands and shook it. 9 flaming dragon-shaped spear chi shot out, roaring ferociously. Flames blazed in the air, and the temperature soared. Even the dust in the air melted away, looking very horrifying. Countless strands of energy clashed in Xiao Chen's body. That was the after-effect of receiving 100 moves from the 2 half-sages head-on. If not for the golden light barrier on his bones, he would have already been severely injured. Fortunately, as long as he recuperated after the battle, he would be able to recover immediately. After suppressing this energy, Xiao Chen watched the 2 execute their heaven-ranked martial techniques. Xiao Chen suppressed this energy and looked at the heaven-ranked martial techniques executed by the 2. He quickly made a decision and instantly executed the dragon subduing slash, Return of the Azure Dragon. Vast waves surged behind Xiao Chen, looking at the boundless sea. 999 pillars of water soared into the sky as the blue dragon leaped out of the sea. The dragon might gathered on the saber and formed a surging dragon-shaped saber chi. Auspicious clouds covered the sky, and dragon might spread out. Then, it clashed with the resplendent sword chi and the horrifying 9 flaming dragons. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion occurred on the ground. The sword pill and the fire dragon saber chi exploded at the same time. Countless cracks appeared on the ground in an instant, spreading out like a spider web. Huge rocks soared into the sky and shot through the air, covering the sky and the sun. After that, the shockwaves shattered the rocks in the air and scattered them with the wind, forming a surging, boundless sandstorm. A white figure could be seen in the dust that filled the air. He vomited a mouthful of blood and flew back miserably. Clearly, using Return of the Blue Dragon rising from the sea to clash head-on with the heaven-ranked martial techniques of 2 half-sages was too much. Xiao Chen only lasted for a moment before the shockwaves knocked him back. Situlei and Lu Chen had unsightly expressions as well. The shock wave knocked them back 500 meters, and the quintessence in their bodies turned somewhat chaotic. When the dust settled, a white figure riding on the blue dragon quickly fled into the distance. As for Situlei and Lu Chen, they looked at the white figure and did not rush to give chase. After a long time, Situlei said unhurriedly, "Old fogey Lu, unexpectedly, you are still so black-hearted. If you really dared to execute your killing move, 9 heavenly star burst, this brat would be a corpse by now." Lu Chen smiled faintly and said, "Likewise. You still did not execute your boundless sea of flames." After chasing Xiao Chen away, the 2 of them, who had fought for most of their lives, immediately became hostile with each other. This made sense when one thought about it. These 2 were mortal enemies. How could they trust each other absolutely? If one side used their killing move and the other side did not, wouldn't that give the other side a chance to kill them on the spot? Chapter 738. Situlei smiled gently and said, "This brat is already crippled. Earlier, he received 100 moves from us. Now, he received 2 heaven-ranked martial techniques. He will not be able to recover within a month. The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit would ripen in only 4 days. By the time Xiao Chen arrived a month later, the white nascent fruit would be gone, and it would be useless. This was also why the two were not in a rush to chase after Xiaochen. Unless one was a martial sage, no one could recover within 4 days from the heaven-ranked martial techniques of two half-sages. No matter what, they managed to get rid of a hidden danger. Although they paid a high price, it was all worth it. Lu Qin turned around and smiled. Old fogey Situ, there is a tricolored flame python guarding the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. How about we work together later? Situ Lei laughed loudly and said, that would be for the best. We cannot let others watch from the sidelines. Naturally, we cannot let a beast take advantage of us. It was rather funny. The two had relaxed expressions and calm gazes. They did not look like mortal enemies who had fought for decades. After the discussion, both sides retracted their forces, no longer paying attention to Xiaochen. A white figure swayed as he descended from the sky above a small river in the periphery of the savage beast forest, landing on the riverbank. Xiaochen raised his head and looked at his pale reflection in the river. He coughed intensely a few times, and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth, dyeing his white robes red. This time, Xiaochen was severely injured. His internal organs all cracked, he had truly sustained internal injuries. However, his injuries were not as severe as Lu Chen and Situ Lei made them out to be. Under martial sage, indeed, no one could withstand the attacks of two heaven-ranked martial techniques and recover quickly. However, Xiaochen was an exception. His physical body had already reached the standard of a martial sage. Furthermore, his bones had formed an internal defense. In terms of resistance to attacks and recovery, it would not be an exaggeration to say that a regular inferior-grade martial sage could not compare to him. Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, looked at the pale Xiaochen, who occasionally frowned due to the intense pain. Feeling confused, she asked, Xiaochen, if you had used Soaring Dragon, you would not have suffered such severe injuries, right? Xiaochen swallowed a healing medicinal pill and squeezed out a smile on his pale face. There is no need. My goal is the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, not to fight to the death with two half-sages. Continuously exposing my strength will only make the two of them more wary of me. Why don't I get injured at the right time and let them think that I can't fight anymore? At that time, I'll give them an unexpected surprise. Being chased by the two great clans for the past few days had left Xiaochen mentally and physically exhausted. He had not been able to relax for even a moment. The two half-saints were pressing down step by step, and it caused his mind to be strained at all times. It was too exhausting. If this continued and Xiaochen kept putting on a brave front, not only would he fail to obtain the white nascent fruit, but he might even lose his life here. Ao Jiao frowned heavily. She still said with some reluctance, however, it is still too dangerous for you to continue like this. If they really steeled themselves to continue chasing you, you would be in real danger now. Xiaochen analyzed calmly, that won't happen. The two of them fear each other. If I were no longer a threat, they would not have worked together to suppress me. Furthermore, riches come from danger. Even if they chase me, I will accept it. No one in this world can predict everything. After 3 days, Xiaochen's strong physical body completely recovered. Xiaochen, who was at the riverside, opened his eyes. His delicate face had a ruddy glow, and he looked spirited without any signs of illness. Xiaochen radiated a sharp aura, and his eyes were bright and spirited. His gaze was as sharp as a knife's edge. After stretching his body, Xiaochen took out a black cloak from the universe ring and draped it over himself. He looked into the distance and muttered to himself, in another day, the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit will ripen. The white nascent fruit will definitely be mine. Xiaochen stretched his arms and soared into the air like a huge bird. Just as he was about to land, a blue dragon image appeared under his feet. Xiaochen pushed off with his feet, and his body flew forward again. In an instant, he crossed a kilometer. Xiaochen moved like a black arrow as he quickly moved forward in the forest. After 1 hour, a hill more than 800 meters tall appeared at the limits of his vision. The cultivators of the Situ clan and the Lu clan hid at the foot of the hill. They looked at the summit with fervent gazes. The white nascent fruit was about the size of a fist. With such a long distance, Xiaoqin could not see it with his eyes. He could only keep extending his spiritual sense forward. Finally, Xiaoqin saw the white nascent fruit hiding at the edge of a crack in the wall. The 4 black petals made the white spirit fruit look exceptionally eye-catching. The spirit fruit was snow-white and as soft as a baby's skin. No one could bear to touch it. Xiaoqin extended his spiritual sense and soon discovered the tricolored flame python guarding not far away. The tricolored flame python was covered in flame tattoos. It was not very thick, only 100 meters long. It could not be compared to the 300-meter-long python that Xiaoqin once saw. However, the bewitching tricolored snake crown on its head was like an evil poppy flower, and it was emitting a strange aura. It reminded people that this was a genuine 9th-grade spirit beast that could be compared to a semi-sage realm expert. Xiao Chen's spiritual sense noticed Situ Lei and Lu Chen in the air. The corners of Xiao Chen's lips curled up slightly. He pulled down his hood and crossed his arms. Then, he stood on a tree branch and waited quietly. Before a storm, there would always be a period of calm. The wind would not blow, and the beasts would not cry out. Everything would be exceptionally quiet, so quiet that it would make one feel sad. At this moment, the hill with the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was undoubtedly in this period of calm. Situ Lei and the Lu clan cultivators hid themselves in the grass and trees below the hill. They held their breaths and remained motionless, cautiously watching each other. Everyone knew that no matter which side obtained the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, the other side's clan would suffer a calamity. The families on the other side would suffer a calamity and be expelled from Green Summit City. Their hundreds of years of family business would be completely destroyed. No one could accept such a result. A battle with the other side was unavoidable. The clan heads of the 2 clans chatted cheerfully, standing side by side in the air. Those who did not know what was going on might even think that the 2 were old friends. Situ Lei looked at the slope and slowly said, "When the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit ripens, it will definitely attract many peak rank 9 spirit beasts. At that time, the disciples of our clans will go and block these foreign spirit beasts. The 2 of us will work together to kill the tricolored flame python. After that, the fight for the white nascent fruit will depend on our own abilities. Brother Lu, what do you think?" Lu Chen smiled calmly and said, "Based on Brother Situ's tone, it seems like you can defeat me and obtain the white nascent fruit." When Situ Lei heard this, his expression did not change. He put on a superficial smile and said, "Brother Lu must be joking. If I were really confident, your Lu clan would have been chased out of Azure Peak City long ago. Why would I wait until now? Sly old fox." Lu Chen cursed in his heart. He did not linger on this topic. He said, "Sure, let's go with your suggestion." Situ Lei had trump cards, but so did Lu Chen. If they relied on their own abilities, Lu Chen was not afraid. As the 2 waited quietly, time slowly went by, and the sky slowly darkened. Normally, the roars of all sorts of beasts could be heard in the savage beast forest at night. Strangely, there was not a single roar tonight. Under the night sky, many pairs of eyes stared at the small hill. No one relaxed at all. In the boundless darkness, time and scene seemed to freeze. Situ Lei and Lu Chen stood side by side in the air, each with their own ulterior motives. The tricolored flame python beside the white nascent fruit. The cultivators of the 2 clans hid at the foot of the hill like statues. Even further away, there was Xiao Chen, dressed in a black cloak, leaning against a tree trunk with his arms crossed. Everything formed a strange picture. All that was left was for the white nascent fruit to ripen. When a mountain torrent erupted and a storm arrived, the picture would shatter. Amidst the silence, it was already midnight. Suddenly, the white nascent fruit's 4 black leaves glowed with light. The black leaves were a boundless starry heavens. The motes of light were the twinkling stars in the starry heavens. At this moment, the people who had been waiting for a long time could not help revealing faint excitement in their eyes. The 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was about to ripen. The tricolored flame python guarding at the side moved its body slightly. It stuck out its forked tongue as it looked greedily at the crystalline, snow-white fruit. Situ Lei's and Lu Chen's eyes lit up. Even people as astute as them could not help taking a step forward. Even they themselves did not notice it. The cultivators of the two clans hiding at the foot of the hill leaned forward, advancing 5 or 6 meters in unison. At this moment, some ripples appeared in the quiet picture. Aside from the young, black-cloaked bladesman standing on the distant tree trunk, who remained as calm as before, everyone else in the picture could not resist the temptation. All the people in the picture could not resist the temptation and took a step forward. The motes of starlight on the leaves increased in number and grew brighter. In this boundless darkness, they became even more eye-catching. Xiao Qian, who was far away, could see them clearly. The thousands of motes of light flickered, looking very beautiful. They overshadowed the white nascent fruit's luster, giving off the feeling of a guest stealing the spotlight. However, everyone knew that this was only temporary. No matter how bright a supporting character was, he was just a supporting character in the end. Suddenly, a fiery light appeared in the middle of the flickering motes of starlight. The light was like the blazing sun, instantly suppressing the motes of light. It was like the sun quietly hiding in the night sky. When it released its light, even the dazzling stars would lose their brilliance. How could the light of a grain of rice compete with the sun and the moon? The moment the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit released its light, it shone brightly. A vast and boundless spiritual energy surged out into the surroundings. The multicolored light in the sky looked like snowflakes drifting down, filling the sky with auspicious signs. Roar! The 5-colored auspicious sign and the spiritual energy that leaked out from the spirit fruit spread far and wide in an instant. The powerful roar of a beast resounded throughout the sky and earth. The ground trembled. As the peak rank 9 spirit beast ran for its life, the shock waves actually reached this place in an instant. My Situ clan disciples, heed my orders. Guard the hill. Do not let any spirit beast near. My Lu clan disciples, heed my orders. Guard the hill. Do not let any spirit beast near. Situ Lei and Lu Qin shouted at nearly the same time. The instant they spoke, their figures moved like lightning, arriving beside the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Chapter 739. Without saying a word, they each sent a palm strike, sending the tricolored flame python, which wanted to swallow the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, flying. The tricolored flame python tumbled in the air before landing at the foot of the slope. Then, it glared angrily at Situ Lei and Lu Chen, who were plotting against it. Move further away and deal with this beast. If we destroy the white nascent fruit, it will be over. Situ Lei's spear trembled. Before the tricolored flame python could react, he took the initiative to attack. Lu Chen quickly followed with a surging killing chi. The tricolored flame python was about as strong as the two. Normally, if they met alone, they might not be able to deal with this beast even after putting in a lot of effort. However, today, they ran into 2 half-sages determined to obtain the white nascent fruit. No matter how strong the tricolored flame python was, it could not reverse the situation. 2 men and 1 snake started an intense battle on the slope. With the 2 working together, they suppressed the tricolored flame python until it could not cause any trouble. At the same time, the battle at the foot of the slope also started. Hundreds of elite cultivators of the 2 clans worked together to defend against the rank 9 spirit beasts rushing over frantically. The battle at the foot of the slope was much more bloody than the one at the top. Although there were no peak rank 9 spirit beasts, there were more of them. The cultivators of the 2 clans defended bitterly, but they still paled in comparison. Casualties occurred at every moment. At this moment, the peaceful scene was completely torn apart. Miserable cries, beast roars, quintessence explosions, and all sorts of chaotic noises rang out endlessly. Under the hood, Xiaoqin stared at the white nascent fruit, which still gave off a bright light. He entered deep thought. After a while, Xiaoqin gently pushed off the ground like a ghost in the night. He silently flew forward, flying higher and higher until he hid himself in a cloud. Xiaoqin controlled the wind and carried the cloud to the top of the white nascent fruit. The people in the intense battle all had nervous expressions. No one noticed this scene. A dark cloud in the sky slowly approached the white nascent fruit. When the cloud descended to 2 kilometers, Xiaoqin stopped and looked at Situ Lei and Lu Chen, the 2 half-sages that posed the greatest threat to him. The tricolored flame python was already covered in wounds. The poisonous flames it spat out were growing thinner, and the threat it posed to the 2 was diminishing. Seeing that the tricolored flame python was about to die, Situ Lei and Lu Chen's movements gradually slowed down. The distance between them had unknowingly increased. A strange light flickered in their eyes as they stared at each other. Their main focus was no longer on the tricolored flame python. The pitiful tricolored flame python had nearly died. Due to various reasons, Situ Lei and Lu Chen had hung it up, refusing to give it a quick death. Situ Lei's spear light swept out, and the 3-colored flame flew up. The momentum was astonishing, but in fact, it did not use much strength at all. Lu Chen kicked the tricolored flame python flying at him back. Then, he smiled indifferently and said, "Brother Situ, I'll leave the final strike of this beast to you." Situ Lei smiled calmly and said, "Brother Lu, you go first. With your movement technique, you will definitely be able to easily dodge the counterattack of the tricolored flame python before its death." "Ha ha! Brother Situ, you go first. How can this old man's strength compare to yours?" Before any spirit beast died, it would make a desperate counterattack. These 2 were crafty. Clearly, they did not want to endure this final strike. Just as these 2 were pushing each other away, a black figure suddenly descended from a cloud above the white nascent fruit. This figure moved astonishingly fast. The direction in which he appeared caught everyone off guard as well. A figure flashed. Situ Lei and Lu Chen, who were chatting with each other, could not react at all. Someone snatched away the glowing white nascent fruit. When the 2 of them looked back, they saw a black figure carrying the white nascent fruit, rushing down the mountain quickly. Situ Lei's and Lu Chen's mouths gaped open in shock. When they reacted, they became enraged. How bold! How dare he snatch away the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit from under our noses? Situ Lei roared ferociously and chased after the black figure in a frenzy. After planning for such a long time, someone snatched away the treasure at the last moment. No one could accept such a disappointment. Boom! Spear lights trembled, and sword lights flickered. In their rage, Situ Lei and Lu Chen each sent out a move. A blue ball of sword light and a roaring fire dragon charged at the black figure, trying to block him. The black figure seemed to have eyes on the back of his head. He pushed off the ground and leaped up, easily dodging the 2 fatal attacks. The fire dragon and the ball of sword exploded, creating a strong shockwave that surged out. The 2 raged. In order to block that black figure, they frantically ran, sending all sorts of attacks at Xiaoqin. Bang! 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 Quintessence surged, and rocks flew out. The horrifying shockwave created a strong wind, cutting the surroundings like knives. Although Xiaoqin dodged all these attacks, the black cloak he wore was already in tatters. It was no longer useful, so he casually took it off. The moment the white clear wind robes appeared, Situ Lei and Lu Chen immediately recognized Xiaoqin. They were dumbfounded. How can this be? He is so severely injured. How can he appear in such a short time? The shock in the 2's eyes was extreme. They could not help but stop what they were doing. They stared at Xiaoqin in a daze. After so many schemes and plans, after so many rounds of searching, in the end, this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit still ended up in the hands of an outsider. Ignore those spirit beasts. Block him. When the two recovered their wits and saw that Xiaoqin had already run far away, they shouted at the disciples at the foot of the mountain. Instantly, hundreds of martial monarchs abandoned the spirit beasts they were fighting and launched themselves at Xiaoqin. So. Many figures flew out, their quintessence surging. 200 or 300 martial monarchs appeared together. Their auras merged into one, looking like a vast mountain range before Xiaoqin. There were close to 300 martial monarchs. Although their cultivations varied, if they attacked together, even a half-sage would not dare to clash head-on. Xiaoqian's face sank, and his sea of consciousness surged. He quickly circulated the dragon tone art in his body, draining his quintessence and mental energy at the same time. The dragon-shaped quintessence circulated in his body, and resounding dragon roars resounded continuously. When Xiaoqin felt the explosive energy in his chest, he opened his mouth and roared. The vigorous true dragon's voice immediately surged out. The wind howled, and dragon's might spread out. The resonant dragon's voice was like a clap of thunder, ear-splitting. When the sound wave spread out, the trees in the way gave off crisp cracking sounds as they all snapped in half. The close to 300 martial monarchs felt a strong wind blow at them. They could not even open their eyes. Those with weaker cultivations were even knocked back. What was even more horrifying was that the dragon's might contained in the sound wave, infused with surging mental energy. When it entered these people's seas of consciousness, it sounded like thunder roared in their minds. His entire head was in a daze, and the movements of his hands stopped for a moment. Taking advantage of this moment, Xiaoqin stood on the blue dragon image and charged over. The ferocious impact knocked the people in front of him into the air like sandbags. By the time these people recovered their wits, Xiaoqin had already taken advantage of this moment to cross the crowd and run far away. When Situ Lei and Lu Qin saw this scene, they were flabbergasted. Even though they were very knowledgeable, they had never heard of such a strange martial technique in the world before. By the time the two of them regrouped and chased away all the rank 9 spirit beasts around the slope, Xiaoqin had already disappeared without a trace. How hateful! Situ Lei clenched his teeth, and his complexion turned ashen. He stomped heavily on the ground, causing the mountain to tremble. Even if Lu Qin had snatched away the white nascent fruit, Situ Lei would not have felt so sullen. However, he could not accept a nameless brat snatching away the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Lu Qin's expression was scarily unsightly as well, even worse than Situ Lei's. Originally, his Lu clan was the first to discover the white nascent fruit. In his heart, the Lu clan had already treated the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit as their family treasure. The Lu clan had put in a lot of effort, mobilized many people, and lost many elites. In the end, it ended up benefiting someone else. How could Lu Qin accept this? After the white nascent fruit is picked, it has to be consumed within 12 hours. Any storage space is useless. This person cannot get far. We still have a chance, Situ Lei said with a sullen expression when he thought of something. If one did not pick the white nascent fruit in its entirety, it was best to consume it right after it was picked. Otherwise, the spiritual energy contained in it would slowly leak out. If one did not consume it within 12 hours, the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit would become an ordinary spirit fruit, no longer as miraculous as before. Lu Qin's eyes lit up with hope. That's right. He will not be able to leave the savage beast forest within 12 hours. If our two clans work together, we will definitely be able to find him. The two clans both had strongholds in the savage beast forest. They had far more people than Situ Lei and Situ Lei. The cultivation of the others might be weaker, but there were not many requirements for them to search for someone. On the other side, Xiaoqin ran for 5 kilometers before he stopped. He felt something wrong in the universe ring. He sent his spiritual sense in and discovered spiritual energy permeating the space within the universe ring. It was like a mist, spreading everywhere. When he looked carefully, it turned out that the vast spiritual energy contained in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was leaking out continuously. Even though a large amount of spiritual energy leaked out from the dazzling spirit fruit, it did not show any signs of dimming. This made one sigh. No wonder the two clans would use their entire clans to fight for it. However, continuing to leak out was not a solution. Even a fool could tell that something was wrong. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, "Ao Jiao, what's going on?" Ao Jiao said with some pity, "Quickly consume it. Otherwise, its effects will be greatly reduced. It would have been great if we had uprooted it. It would have been even better if the roots were intact. That way, we could have transplanted it into the immortal spirit ring." Xiaochen smiled bitterly. Ao Jiao made it sound easy. At that time, it could be said that he had plucked it from the hands of two half-sages. If not for these two half-sages fearing each other and harboring ulterior motives, he would not have stood a chance. It would be very difficult to refine this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit in a short time. The two clans would definitely send people to search for him. Chapter 740. If someone interrupted him during the refinement process, the consequences would be dire. At best, he would be severely injured. At worst, he might even lose his life. Unexpectedly, after obtaining the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit, there would be so much trouble. The joy in Xiaochen's heart slowly cooled. He felt conflicted. The two clans were very familiar with this place. No matter how well he hid, they would find him. 3 days ago, when he was being chased, he had not been able to relax for even a moment. Ao Jiao urged, "Stop dilly-dallying. Quickly refine it. Otherwise, the medicinal effects will weaken." Being afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind was not Xiaochen's character. Steeling himself, Xiaochen looked around and found a dense bush. After making some simple disguises, he sat down cross-legged and took out the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit from the universe ring. A regular white nascent fruit could live for 500 years at most. A 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit was definitely a mutated fruit, comparable to a rare treasure. It was not much less valuable than dragon marrow. After calming himself, Xiaochen's expression turned completely calm. Then, he swallowed the white nascent fruit. The white spirit fruit was fragrant and sweet. It melted in his mouth. Before Xiaochen could savor the taste, the white nascent fruit turned into a warm current flowing through his body. Boom! The medicinal energy took effect in a moment. Xiaochen's skin and hair all turned crystalline, flickering with light and giving off a radiance. This was especially so for Xiaochen's head of black hair, which fluttered in the wind. He looked like ancient jade, filled with a boundless charm. The surroundings of Xiaochen's dantian surged. The warm current that the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit turned into fell like rain. Every drop of rain contained surging heaven and earth spiritual qi, and they fell without stopping. Xiaochen's cultivation soared continuously, showing no signs of stopping. Soon, he touched the formless bottleneck of superior grade martial monarch. The spiritual energy contained in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit far surpassed Xiaochen's expectations. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it contained a vast amount of spiritual energy. Now, Xiaochen even regretted using this 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit to break through to superior grade martial monarch. Perhaps it would be even better if he used it when he was trying to break through to the half-saint realm in the future. However, this thought passed in an instant. Not to mention the fact that the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit could only be found and not sought. The purple thunder divine incantation that Xiaochen cultivated required far more quintessence than ordinary people. The white nascent fruit that others could use to break through to half-sage might not have the same effect on him. Boom! The vast spiritual energy gushed like a river. After a few hits, it broke through the formless bottleneck of superior grade martial monarch. However, the jade-like luster on Xiaochen's body did not weaken at all. His 3,000 strands of hair flickered with fluorescent light, fluttering in the wind. A surging energy flowed through Xiaochen's body. He felt very carefree. At this moment, he finally advanced to superior grade martial monarch. However, what delighted Xiaoqin even more was that the spiritual energy in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit did not run out. In the world around Xiaoqian's dantian, droplets of rain fell continuously. Just one drop of rain was equivalent to 1 day of cultivation. Xiaoqian's cultivation continued to advance. After 1 hour, as he continuously refined the spiritual energy, he completely stabilized his cultivation as a superior grade martial monarch. The spiritual energy in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit had not run out yet. Xiaoqin quickly made a decision. He would make use of this opportunity to break through to late-stage superior grade martial monarch. After making up his mind, Xiaoqin started to refine his quintessence. He turned the unending but slightly loose spiritual energy into thick and heavy purple lightning-attributed quintessence. Time slowly went by. With the help of the white nascent fruit, Xiaoqian's quintessence was completely solid in less than 1 hour, becoming as heavy as a mountain. Without hesitation, Xiaoqin took out a quintessence gathering pill and swallowed it. Then, he started to refine his dense purple quintessence a second time. The carefree feeling in Xiaoqian's body vanished. Replacing it was the intense pain of refining quintessence twice. Bean-sized beads of sweat rolled down Xiaoqian's forehead. He clenched his teeth and endured bitterly, silently enduring the pain of the quintessence gathering pill. Even though Xiaoqin had already experienced it twice, this experience still made his soul tremble. His entire body ached, and he wished he could stop immediately. Since ancient times, countless people had tried to refine their quintessence twice. Most of them could not endure it and gave up. The remaining few could not endure it and died from the pain. A strong physical body and an indomitable will. Only by having both could one successfully refine their quintessence twice. Otherwise, even if one was a demonic genius that only appeared once in 10,000 years, it would not work. The heart-wrenching pain constantly questioned Xiaoqian's heart, asking if he had clearly seen his own path, if he really knew what he wanted. The path of a cultivator was filled with thorns and endless bumps. No matter how much effort and sweat one put in, one might not reach the peak in the end. Would one's heart waver? Would one still have the courage to endure this boundless pain? Xiaoqian's heart did not waver. His past beliefs became even firmer as he questioned himself. Xiaoqian never doubted his own path. Not in the past, not now, not in the future. Dong! Dong! Look around. The clan head said that as long as we find that brat, we do not need to capture him to obtain a great reward. Urgent footsteps resounded. At this crucial moment, the cultivators of the Situ clan and the Lu clan had actually arrived. If someone injured him while he was consuming the quintessence gathering pill, he would definitely enter a berserking qi deviation. Xiaoqin quickly thought about it and decided to give up on this opportunity. Although the loss was great, compared to entering a berserking qi deviation, he had no other choice. Don't move. Focus on refining your quintessence. Absorb all the medicinal liquid in the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. I'll block these people for you. Before Xiaoqin could reply, Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, flew out with a whoosh. The simple disguise that Xiaoqin laid immediately tore a hole. The cultivators of the two clans immediately discovered Xiaoqian's jade-like luster in the dark forest. We found him. Quick, inform, the person who spoke was incredibly excited, attracting the attention of the search team. But before he could finish speaking, a beautiful figure flickered over, blood splattered, and his head flew into the air. Only now did the others notice that at some point in time, a pretty girl with a frosty expression was hovering in the air. Ao Jiao held two short sabers made of light in her hands. Without saying anything, she charged at the remaining people. Most of the search team were only martial kings. How could they be a match for Ao Jiao? Lights flickered, and they fell one after another. This startled the leader of the search team. He turned around and ran, quickly activating the alarm mechanism hidden in his sleeve. An ear-piercing buzzing sound immediately radiated in all directions like ripples. The sound swept through the many trees. After a while, all the cultivators within 50 kilometers heard the commotion. Pu ci. The lightsaber in Ao Jiao's hand flew out and nailed the person who successfully triggered the alarm to a tree. The search team of 11 people died in a few breaths of time. The temporary danger was resolved. However, an even greater danger was about to arrive. Sensing two strong auras flying over at lightning speed, Ao Jiao could not help but frown slightly, feeling very worried. Two clumps of light descended from the sky, releasing horrifying energy ripples. They blasted many trees into pieces and filled the air with dust. Situ Lei and Lu Chen walked out of the dust cloud expressionlessly, holding their weapons in their hands. The two looked around and immediately discovered Xiao Chen, whose entire body gave off a jade-white glow. Rage burned in their eyes. This brat was actually refining the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. Now, even if they killed this brat, they would not be able to retrieve the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit. In their rage, the two rushed forward, wanting to chop Xiao Chen into pieces to vent the hatred in their hearts. Chong! Chong! Ao Jiao descended calmly from the sky. She brandished the two sabers in her hands and blocked the attacks of the two. Her exquisite saber techniques were executed miraculously. The cold light was piercingly cold, and it forced the two of them, who were not prepared for it, to retreat in a single exchange. Item spirit. After they landed, Lu Chen and Situ Lei exchanged strange glances. Then, they rejoiced and looked at Ao Jiao with a fervent gaze. Situ Lei's spear trembled as he laughed softly. I have long felt that this brat's saber is strange. Unexpectedly, it actually gave birth to an item spirit. Lu Chen smiled sinisterly and said, a treasured saber with an item spirit. Even if we split it evenly, it would be more than sufficient to make up for our losses. As half-sages, the two were naturally more knowledgeable than ordinary people. They immediately figured out Ao Jiao's identity and rejoiced in their hearts. Ao Jiao floated quietly on the ground. When she saw the greedy gazes in the two's eyes, she could not help but smile coldly. Who do you think you are? After receiving the Thunder King's inheritance, the lunar shadow saber, do you think that just anyone can grasp it? Situ Lei's eyes lit up as he laughed loudly. No wonder this brat is so strong. So, he is the inheritor of the Thunder King. It looks like we are going to make a big profit this time. Watch how I subdue you. Xiao. Situ Lei's figure flashed, and his spear turned into a fire dragon as he charged at Ao Jiao. The strong state of fire was accompanied by vast quintessence. Its might was incredibly startling. Lu Chen did not want to fall behind. A blue light surged on his sword as he quickly followed. Since the Thunderwood sword broke, Ao Jiao had not recovered her strength. She had been reborn in the lunar shadow saber. Even so, she barely reached the combat prowess of a medial-grade martial monarch. In terms of cultivation, Xiao Chen was no match for the two. Fortunately, her saber techniques and combat techniques far surpassed theirs. She could still deal with the two for a while. However, as time dragged on, the situation slowly turned for the worse. Under their relentless attacks of quintessence exhaustion, Ao Jiao found it increasingly difficult to hold on. Bang! An opening appeared in Ao Jiao, and Situ Lei took advantage of it. His spear swept out and sent Ao Jiao's weak body flying. Little girl, you still dare to boast? Do this old man have the qualifications to wield the lunar shadow saber? Situ Lei laughed maniacally and took advantage of the situation to attack. A fire dragon circled his spear, forcing Ao Jiao to retreat again and again. Chapter 741. Boom! A blue sword ball gave off a metallic sword hum as it flew towards Ao Jiao, who was being held back by Situ Lei. This sword ball was made up of thousands of strands of sword qi. If struck, it would feel like someone had swung thousands of swords. This was Lu Chen's unique killing move. He wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to take down Ao Jiao in one move and force her to submit. Just at this critical moment, the jade-like Xiao Chen in the bushes behind suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes gleamed with an unparalleled sharpness. The light withdrew, and Xiao Chen's gaze turned cold and emotionless. He leaped up and gathered a vast lightning-attributed quintessence in his right hand. Xiao Chen clenched his fist and punched, striking the blue sword ball flying at him. Electric light exploded like a flame, and the boundless sword chi hidden in the blue sword ball was scattered by this punch. It turned into sword winds and scattered in all directions. After shattering Lu Chen's fatal strike with one punch, Xiao Chen looked at Situlei, who was attacking Ao Jiao relentlessly. His cold eyes did not contain any emotion. An azure dragon image appeared under Xiao Chen's feet and carried him forward. Then, Xiao Chen punched without hesitation. Thunder roared in the sky, and the flickering electric light on his fist looked like it would last forever. Xiao Chen's long hair fluttered in the wind. Under the illumination of the electric light, he looked like a war god descending, filled with might. The instant Xiao Chen got close, he activated the ancient sovereign's aura. A vast and epic aura pressed down like a mountain, causing Situlei's movements to pause. Bang! Taking advantage of this fleeting opportunity, Xiao Chen's fist, flickering with purple electric light, quickly smashed into Situlei's chest. Bang! When Xiao Chen's fist landed on Situlei's chest, it gave off a thunderous sound. The lightning streaked across the sky, and a vast lightning-attributed quintessence poured into Situlei's body through his chest. Situlei's head full of black hair, chi, all of them were electrocuted, his face was pale, and his body flew backward. Ao Jiao, come in. I'll help you fight back how these people beat you. Looking at the two people in front of him expressionlessly, Xiao Chen's eyes surged with killing intent, and his aura continued to rise. The flickering lightning illuminated his delicate face, making it look particularly eye-catching. A smile appeared on Ao Jiao's pale face. This sentence was enough for her. There was never a need to doubt Xiao Chen's words. Once he said it, he would definitely do it. The weakened Ao Jiao turned into a beam of light and entered the immortal spirit ring. Situlei and Lu Chen looked at Xiao Chen with bewildered expressions. As half-sages, they actually felt a little timid before Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen shattered Lu Chen's sword ball with one punch and sent Situlei flying with another. The strength that Xiao Chen displayed after consuming the 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit far surpassed the two's expectations. Xiao Chen gently waved his left hand, and the lunar shadow saber appeared in his grasp. Then, he looked at the two and said indifferently, "Make your move. Let me see what qualifications you have to take my lunar shadow saber." Lu Chen and Situlei exchanged glances. They could see incredulity in each other's expressions. The white-robed bladesman, who they chased twice and forced to flee miserably, actually took the initiative to challenge them. "Since you want to die so much, Situlei, will grant your wish." Situlei could no longer endure the disdainful gaze in Xiao Chen's eyes. He roared ferociously and brandished his spear, taking the initiative to attack. 9 berserk fire dragons soared behind him. Guided by the spear, they quickly flew towards Xiao Chen. Lu Chen's expression turned cold. He glanced at the lunar shadow saber in Xiao Chen's hand, and a greedy expression appeared on his face. Then, he quickly followed up and launched 9 star-like blue sword balls. The two's attacks were the heaven-ranked martial techniques that defeated Xiao Chen previously. They intended to severely injure Xiao Chen again, not giving him any chance to flee this time. Unfortunately, the two did not know that Xiao Chen had purposely lost the previous time. Now, Xiao Chen's cultivation had improved greatly. Not only had he advanced to superior-grade martial monarch, but he had also refined his quintessence twice. The current Xiao Chen was no longer the same as before. How could he care about these two moves? Grasping the saber hilt with his right hand, Xiao Chen leaned forward slightly. He circulated his energy for the dragon-subduing slash. The soaring aura slowly withdrew and hid itself. Xiao Chen remained as motionless as a mountain. He was like a true dragon in hibernation, continuously calculating the trajectories of the two's killing moves with his eyes. Only when the two heaven-ranked martial techniques were only 8 meters away from him did Xiaoqin suddenly make a move. He turned into a true dragon and took a light step forward. With just one step, the ground split open with a loud bang, and a black crack spread out in front of him. Hidden dragon in the abyss, a gentleman plans before taking action. Soaring dragon in the sky, shocking the world with a single brilliant feat. Xiaoqin soared into the air. Following the feeling in his heart, he naturally drew the lunar shadow saber. It was like a true dragon furiously swinging its claws. The might of a true dragon soaring into the air, the rage of a true dragon, unstoppable. Bang! The saber light was very dazzling. Situle's 9 clumps of flames howled miserably at this soaring saber strike. They turned into sparks and scattered. Lu Chen's 9 sword orbs that resembled starlight directly exploded, and the sword chi hidden within them shot out in all directions like a celestial maiden. The shock waves of the sword chi blasted deep pits on the ground, creating a scene of devastation. After breaking the killing moves of the two, Xiaoqian's momentum did not decrease. He launched a great counterattack at the two. Xiaoqin had refined his quintessence twice. Now, when it came to competing with quintessence, he no longer feared the two. By relying on his strong physical body, he dared to fight, not fearing injury. In the air, Xiaoqian's aura flourished. He brandished his saber and executed all sorts of martial techniques, forcing Situle and Lu Chen to continuously retreat. After 100 moves, Situle and Lu Chen felt their blood churning. Their internal organs trembled violently. The flowing electric light rampaged in their bodies. In the past, the two of them had used their cultivation to suppress Xiaoqin, forcing Xiaoqin into a sorry state within 100 moves. Now, the situation was reversed. With the same level of quintessence, the advantage of Xiaoqian's physical body showed itself. Similarly, after receiving 100 moves, his strong physical body blocked most of the energy. As Xiaoqian's long hair fluttered, his delicate face appeared very relaxed. The show was just beginning. Spring thunder chop. Burning to desolation. Fated person in autumn water. Grieving frost. The 4-season saber technique, which was only slightly weaker than a heaven-ranked martial technique, was easily executed by Xiaoqin like he was eating or drinking, forcing Situle and Lu Chen into an even more sorry state. Cycle of seasons, endless growth. The cycle of seasons, which could rival most heaven-ranked martial techniques, swept out endlessly with the power of the cycle of seasons. The thunder of spring, the fire of summer, the wind of autumn, and the frost of winter. The mysterious phenomenon of the cycle of seasons was perfectly infused into Xiaoqian's saber technique. When he swung his saber, he sent the two, whose qi and blood were already unstable, flying back while vomiting blood. The two of them landed on the ground with a loud bang. The huge impact caused the ground to tremble and dust to fill the air. The two pairs of eyes filled with fear as they looked at Xiaoqin. If they had only been shocked earlier, then now, they were filled with utter horror. Unexpectedly, 2 half-sages were suppressed by a superior-grade martial monarch to the point where they vomited blood and could not breathe. Since when did such a demonic genius appear in the Tianwu domain? Unexpectedly, they did not know about it. Situle struggled to his feet and held his spear. He said in a deep voice, "Old fogey Lu, even if you underestimate me, you really cannot hold back." As you say. Lu Chen's expression was equally grave. He said indifferently, "If we do not kill him today, given his talent, the two of us will not stand a chance in the future." In the air, Xiaoqin stood on the blue dragon image. His white robes fluttered as he watched the 2 half-sages prepare to use their trump cards. His delicate and handsome face did not show any fear. It was as Xiaoqin had said in the past. There were strong and weak half-sages. Murong Lingfeng had casually slaughtered Gu Mu and the others like him like pigs and dogs. Clearly, the two people from before were only on the same level as Gu Mu. They were much weaker than the 7 giants. As long as Xiao Qin could close the gap in quintessence, he would not fear these two. Since they wanted to kill him, he did not want to leave any loose ends. This time, Xiao Qin would put an end to all his grudges. Boundless Sea of Fire. 9-star Heavenly Explosion. Situ Lei and Lu Qin shouted at the same time. The two of them no longer held back, executing their killing moves without holding anything back. When facing the current Xiao Qin, holding back would be no different from sending themselves to death. Whether it was success or failure, the two of them placed all their bets on this final move. A boundless sea of fire spread out from Situ Lei's body. Blazing flames stretched as far as the eye could see. The mysterious phenomenon looked very real. The heat waves coming from it made everyone feel a scalding heat. It felt like even the air would melt under this sea of fire. A huge wave of fire surged over the sea of fire. As Situ Lei stood on the sea of fire, a ring of red flames appeared around him. His entire body was immersed in the flames as he tossed out the spear in his hand. It carried a boundless might as it flew towards Xiao Qin along with the boundless huge waves. The fire wave wanted to drown Xiao Qin, and the spear light wanted to pierce through Xiao Qin. The boundless hatred in Situ Lei's eyes was all focused on this move. On the other side, Lu Chen's 9-star Heavenly Explosion had a horrifying might. It did not look any weaker than Situ Lei's. 9 dazzling blue balls of swords as bright as the sun formed a ring in the sky and spun rapidly. Lu Qin stood in the middle of the ring with his sword upright. He placed his left hand on the sword and circulated his quintessence continuously. The 9 blue balls of swords spun rapidly. In the end, they were no longer 9 balls of swords. Instead, they formed a ring-shaped storm of swords. Within the ring-shaped storm of swords, the buzzing of countless swords could be heard. 10,000 swords clashed with each other, clanging endlessly. Die! In an instant, the two of them completed their killing moves in practically an instant. They carried an overwhelming might as they charged at Xiao Qin. Only a scarlet flame and the huge ring-shaped storm of swords could be seen. Xiao Qin's body was instantly drowned in it. Chapter 742. After executing their trump cards, the two appeared extremely fatigued. Their quintessence was drained, and they placed all their hopes on these two moves. Situ Lei panted slightly as he muttered, "It's time to end this." Even the strongest half-sage would not be able to escape unscathed from a medial-grade heaven-ranked martial technique that exhausted all our quintessence. No matter what, this brat was just a superior-grade martial monarch. No matter how demonic he would not be able to escape death after 2 half-sages cut off all means of retreat. Lu Qin had the same thought in his heart. His gaze was urgent, anxious to know how badly Xiao Qin would end up when he was swallowed up. Bang! Suddenly, a bright golden light shot out from the sea of fire. The two, who had lost the protection of their quintessence, felt a stinging pain in their eyes like needles. A loud explosion resounded in the boundless sea of fire. The horrifying shock wave formed thick clouds that soared into the sky. A deep, spiral-shaped pit a kilometer wide appeared in the ground. When all the dust and debris soared into the sky, Situ Lei and Lu Qin finally saw the situation inside. The white-robed Xiao Qin had his hair fluttering in the wind. His delicate face was in high spirits, he did not look injured at all. A strange flame diagram hovered in the air in front of Xiao Qin. It flickered with golden light and materialized everything in the world, including the entire world. That's impossible. Unexpectedly, he is not injured at all. What kind of strange martial technique is that? Unexpectedly, he blocked the full-powered heaven-ranked martial techniques of 2 half-sages. Situ Lei and Lu Qin goggled. It was like they saw the most inconceivable thing in the world, something that surpassed their understanding. Xiao Qin's gaze turned cold. He did not give the two much time to react as he gently waved his right hand. The Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram shot forward. The 8 trigrams, the 4 divisions, and the world all entered it. 1 yin and 1 yang, the two flames chased each other, making the golden light of the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram even more dazzling. It looked like the sun, eternal and inextinguishable. Bang! Bang! Two loud sounds rang out. Lu Chen and Situ Lei, who did not have any quintessence left, could not resist at all. The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram knocked them into the air one after another. His body was like a kite with a broken string, swaying in the air. Xiao Chen's face sank, and he pushed down with a flip of his hand. Pooh! As dust flew up, two half-sages, who were once famous, were crushed into meat paste by Xiao Chen. With a thought, the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram stuck to the ground slowly disappeared. Finally, it turned into two beams of light, one white and one purple, returning to Xiao Chen's eyes. Xiao Chen closed his eyes and staggered, almost falling down. After the Taiji yin-yang flame diagram reached great perfection, this was the first time Xiao Chen used it in actual combat. Due to his lack of experience, he had exhausted too much mental energy. If he could control it well, he could completely reduce the power and not waste his mental energy. 5,000 meters away, the Situ and two clans' cultivators had already arrived. However, the battle between Xiao Chen and the two half-sages had already reached its climax. They could not interfere at all. Originally, everyone thought that Xiao Chen would die for sure. However, the result exceeded their expectations. Unexpectedly, a superior-grade martial monarch managed to kill two half-sages. Furthermore, he did it in such a tyrannical manner, crushing them into meat paste. When the cultivators saw Xiao Chen resting with his eyes closed, they were horrified. They did not dare to advance at all. After a long time, Xiao Chen opened his eyes and gently drifted over. Soon, he arrived before the two corpses that no longer resembled human corpses. When Xiao Chen thought back to his encounters in the past few days, he realized that he had fought a battle of wits and courage with these two strong old foxes. He had been in danger of death several times. By relying on his solid foundation and extraordinary calmness and decisiveness, Xiao Chen had the last laugh in the end. Not only had Xiao Chen obtained the rare 1,000-year-old white nascent fruit and advanced to superior-grade martial monarch, but he had also killed two half-sages. After taking the two spatial rings, Xiao Chen no longer lingered here and headed for the exit of the forest. As the cultivators of the two clans watched Xiao Chen's departing figure, they stared at him. However, none of them had any intention of following him. After the matter was over, Xiao Chen left, hiding his scholarly achievements. He carried his pride and went on his way alone. 3 days later, the news of a white-robed bladesman killing Situ Lei and Lu Chen, the two tyrants of Azure Peak City, spread like wildfire to every corner of the city. These two clans dominated Azure Peak City for a long time. Situ Lei and Lu Chen were peak experts who had already shaken the entire city decades ago. In this small green summit city, the two of them were godlike existences. When people suddenly heard that these two people died at the hands of a young white-robed bladesman, no one believed it. They thought it was just a joke. However, as the cultivators of the two clans spread more news, whether intentionally or unintentionally, it was verified. Everyone in the city was shocked. Several old people sighed. The new generation replaced the old. To think that Situ Lei and Lu Chen died just like that, making someone else famous for nothing. As for Xiao Chen's identity, all sorts of rumors spread. Some of them were so exaggerated that people found it funny. The largest restaurant of Azure Peak City was bustling with people. Business was booming, there was not a single empty table in sight. Do you know that the identity of the white-robed bladesman has already been revealed? It is the famous Bai Wushue's challenge. What's going on? Could this white-robed bladesman be the person that Bai Wushue officially acknowledged? That should be the case. The cultivators of the two clans have already compared the portraits. They look at least 70% similar. Furthermore, they are both bladesmen and wear white robes. How could there be such a coincidence? If it is this person, then Situ Lei and Lu Chen's deaths are not unjust. After all, even one of the 7 giants, by Wuxue, officially acknowledged this person. The most discussed topic in the hall was none other than the white-robed bladesman. The place was extraordinarily bustling. Xiao Chen, who was wearing a black cloak, sat at a table by the window on the 2nd floor. He appeared very calm about all this, not showing any complacency. He had only killed 2 half-sages who were as strong as Gumu. Any one of the 7 giants would have been able to do so. Furthermore, they would have done so much more easily than Xiao Chen. After putting down his wine cup, Xiao Chen focused all his attention on a round purple crystal coin. The purple crystal coin felt very textured in his hand. There were 3 mountains hidden in the clouds on the back and a figure of a person on the front. In total, Xiao Chen had obtained 10 million superior-grade spirit stones from Situ Lei's and Lu Chen's spatial rings. This was much lower than Xiao Chen had expected. The 2 of them had their own clans and were not loose cultivators. Despite being half-sages, they only had slightly more than 5 million superior-grade spirit stones. This was completely incomprehensible. Aside from spirit stones, Xiao Chen's greatest harvest was the purple crystal coin before him. There were about 100,000 of them. The purple crystal coin should have been made from some mysterious ore. It was very valuable. As for what exactly it was, even after studying it for a few days, Xiao Chen could not figure it out. In the noisy restaurant, Xiao Chen held the purple crystal coin and finally asked Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, "What is this crystal coin?" "Ao Jiao, do you know?" Ao Jiao was currently taking care of the most valuable lunar cassia tree in the immortal spirit ring. Under her care, the white lunar cassia tree had already doubled in height from its initial 10-meter-tall sapling. The tree trunk had also become thicker. Xiao Chen had to wrap his hands around it before he could barely wrap his arms around it. The branches and leaves were lush, glistening with spiritual light. It looked very beautiful. Ao Jiao stopped what she was doing and narrowed her eyes. Then, she smiled craftily and said, "Naturally, I know. However, you have to throw in some more spirit stones." Right now, the spirit trees in the herb garden are growing too slowly with just the rank 1 spirit vein's origin. Xiao Chen smiled bitterly, feeling a headache coming on. Honestly speaking, he had not paid much attention to the spirit trees in the immortal spirit ring. In reality, an ordinary tree would take 10 or 20 years to grow. What more a spirit tree? It would take hundreds or even thousands of years to grow. However, Ao Jiao worked tirelessly. She kept saying that it would be very useful to Xiao Chen in the future. The earlier he managed the immortal spirit ring, the better his advantage would be when he met Emperor Wu, who was of the same generation. Xiao Chen spent most of his superior-grade spirit stones on it. This time, he had just obtained 10 million superior-grade spirit stones. However, Ao Jiao immediately asked for 3 million. This made Xiao Chen's heart ache. After that, no matter how much she asked, Xiao Chen ignored her. Now that he heard Ao Jiao mention this matter again, Xiao Chen felt helpless. He could only agree to throw in another 2 million superior-grade spirit stones. Only then did Ao Jiao smile in satisfaction. She said, "This is an astral coin. It is widely circulated among the high-ranked cultivators of the 5 major races of the Kunlun realm's 5 domains. Normally, Emperor Wu would use astral coins to exchange for treasures." Xiao Chen held the purple crystal coin and asked doubtfully, "Astral coin? Doesn't that overlap with spirit stones?" Ao Jiao smiled and said, "How can it overlap? Even in the human race's Tianwu domain, it would not overlap. I already said that this is the currency used among high-ranked cultivators. Martial sages and the various peak auctions all use astral coins as their currency. The most important thing is that spirit stones are most useful to human cultivators. They are not very useful to the other races. For example, the deity race mainly cultivates mental energy. The cultivation resource they require is demonic soul stones. The fiend race cultivates fiendish energy. The efficiency of converting spirit stones into fiendish energy is far inferior to that of blood soul stones. Only astral coins are made from the astral crystal mines of the Milky Way. They are essential for forging spirit weapons and secret treasures. They are a scarce resource among the various races. It is most suitable to use them as the currency used to communicate with the 5 major domains. After this explanation, Xiaochen finally understood the value of astral coins. Due to the different body structures of the major races, the astral coins were extremely rare. Although they all cultivated the martial Tao, the cultivation resources they required were different. Spirit stones, which could be used widely in the Tianwu domain, would be hard to find in the Fiend domain or the deity race. At this moment, they urgently needed a common resource that could be traded between the various races. Hunluo province was at the border of the Tianwu domain, bordering the Fiend domain. Bushan Palace's control over it was very weak. The number of Fiend race and human cultivators in the province was roughly equal. Chapter 743. Finding astral coins on Situ Lei and Lu Chen was easy to explain. The 2 clan heads definitely had dealings with Fiend race cultivators. Xiaochen wondered how much 100,000 astral coins were worth. Xiaochen thought for a while before asking, how many spirit stones can 1 astral coin be exchanged for? Ao Jiao thought for a while before replying, 2,000 years ago, during the Thunder King's time, 1 astral coin was worth 1,000 superior grade spirit stones. However, it was not fixed. For example, if you used astral coins to exchange for spirit stones in the human race, it would definitely not be as much as in the Fiend domain. There should not be too many changes now. It should be around 1,000 superior grade spirit stones to 2,000. When Xiaochen heard this, his heart could not help thumping heavily. Based on this exchange rate, 100,000 astral coins could be exchanged for at least 100 million superior grade spirit stones. How could the 2 clans accumulate only 10 million superior grade spirit stones after hundreds of years? This was impossible. Now that the 2 clans were fully stocked up, Xiaochen was in a good mood. He revealed a smile and tossed an astral coin on the table. Then, he said loudly, "Waiter, the bill." However, Ao Jiao laughed to herself. While 100,000 astral coins might seem like a lot, it would be nearly used up to purchase 1 or 2 high-ranked superior-grade secret treasures. The consumption of resources between high-ranked cultivators was far beyond what Xiaochen could imagine. When the waiter heard that the bill was being paid, he rushed over quickly. However, when he looked around, he discovered that the people on the table were long gone. Just as the waiter was about to curse out loud, he suddenly noticed the purple astral coin on the table. His eyes immediately lit up. He held it in his hand and examined it carefully before laughing joyfully. Astral coin. It really is an astral coin. I have not seen such a forthright cultivator in a long time. Hunluo province bordered the Fiend domain. Astral coins were not rare in Hunluo province. Hence, the waiter recognized this astral coin with one glance. Knowing the value of astral coins, the waiter nearly jumped up in joy. Outside the city gates, Xiaochen removed his black cloak and took one last look at Azure Peak City before continuing on his way. After spending more than a month in the Savage Beast Forest, he had completely recovered in the past 3 days. Xiaochen's destination did not change. It was still the Devil region, the forbidden land where the Thunder King had comprehended his will. At this moment, everyone in the Lu residence in Green Summit City was listless. Lu Chen was dead, and the clan had lost a half-sage. Everyone could predict what would happen to the Lu clan in Green Peak City in the future. It would be difficult for them to continue their glory. If it weren't for his prestige, his enemies would have come to kill him long ago, but his peaceful days wouldn't last long. Unless Lu Enz, the successor to the family head, was willing to cut off more than half of the family business. Young Master Lu, what do you think? As long as you say that you will leave the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, our magnificent Fiend Hall will immediately help you deal with that brat. In the brightly lit main hall of the Lu family, a burly man in a yellow robe with a rough appearance and an ominous glint in his eyes said to the indecisive Lu Enz. Although Green Peak City was a small city, its proximity to the savage beast forest was excellent. It had always been one of the strongholds that the major factions of Hunluo province fought over. On the surface, it was in the hands of the Situ clan and the Lu clan. However, everyone in the know knew that the two clans were backed by the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School was the reason for the conflict between the two clans. They did not want one of the clans to grow too strong. In reality, if one thought about it carefully, one could understand. Given Situ Lei and Lu Chen's half-sage cultivation, without a strong backer, any martial sage would be able to subdue this place. However, such a situation did not happen. Clearly, everyone knew that touching these two clans was equivalent to offending the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. Things would not end well for them. The yellow-robed man appeared very confident. He smiled and said, "I believe you have already reported the situation here to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. However, they will not offend the Haotian sect for the sake of two small clans. They are even more afraid of the human race's Bushin Palace taking revenge on them if they kill this genius. However, we fiend race cultivators do not have so many scruples. If we kill him, so be it. As long as we do not break the tacit understanding between us, it will be fine." Lu Enz's expression slowly relaxed. He had indeed reported the situation to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. The other party's reaction was exactly as the yellow-robed man said. They only placated Lu Enz and said that they would send experts to take over the Lu clan temporarily. Then, they would take Lu Enz in as a true inheritor. After Lu Enz finished his studies, he would take revenge for his father's death. They had not mentioned taking the initiative to attack that brat. However, Lu Enz still hesitated. After all, as a human, he could not accept the fact that he was a fiend race faction. However, when Lu Enz recalled the scene of his father, Lu Chen, being smashed into a meat patty by Xiao Chen, boundless hatred surged in his heart. He clenched his teeth and made a decision. "Very well, I promise you. As long as your magnificent fiend hall can kill that brat, I will help you gain complete control of Green Peak City." The yellow-robed man stood up and laughed loudly. He said, "How delightful. In less than a month, that brat's head will appear before you." Hunluo province was located at the border of the Fiend domain and the Tianwu domain. The humans and the fiend races had already infiltrated each other, forming a special, chaotic land. Be it the Tianwu domain's Bushin Palace or the Fiend domain's Heavenly Fiend Palace, they could not manage this place well. As time passed, they abandoned this place. This made it a completely lawless zone, and the chaos intensified even more. There were 6 major factions in Hunluo province: the human race's Eternal Heavenly Sword School, Bone Tomb Sect, and Blood Shadow Sect, and the fiend race's Magnificent Fiend Hall, Heavenly Tiger Sect, and Soaring Serpent Mansion. These 6 major factions were all rank 8 sects with strong peak martial sages holding down the fort. In terms of accumulations, they were much weaker than the 9 ranks of the great families. However, among the rank 8 sects, any one of these 6 major factions would rank at the peak in any domain of the Kunlun realm. This was just one province, and there were 6 peak rank 8 sections. The chaos and conflict there was easy to imagine. Furthermore, the Bushin Palace and the Heavenly Fiend Palace made this place seem weak. Several loose cultivators who committed great crimes in the Tianwu domain and the Fiend domain did not want to flee to the distant Primal Chaos domain. If they didn't want to run to the remote Primal Chaos domain, they would hide here to avoid being hunted down. Here, be it the famous bandits of the Tianwu domain's evil cultivator ranking or the great evil fiends of the Fiend domain, they could be found everywhere. On a mountain peak outside Azure Peak City, strong winds blew away white clouds, causing them to drift about. That yellow-robed man from the Magnificent Fiend Hall stood at the summit, looking calmly into the distance. Whoosh! 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 A nimble figure leaped up from the foot of the mountain like a monkey, continuously climbing up. With a single kick, he would leap 500 meters. This person's kick was clearly very strong. However, when he landed, he was as light as a feather. None of the rocks on the mountain peak tumbled down. This person climbed the 5,000-meter tall slope in a few breaths of time before landing on a huge rock at the summit. This person also wore yellow robes. However, his clothes were messy, and he did not care about his appearance. His long hair was a mess, as if he had not combed it for a long time. With one glance, the word sloppy would immediately appear in one's mind. Only his eyes were spirited, bright, and clear. These eyes were like luminous pearls that had suddenly popped out of a pile of trash. They were very dazzling, making everyone forget about the pile of trash and only remember this pair of luminous pearl-like eyes. The sloppy youth half-squatted on the huge rock, not bothering with his image at all. He stuck his finger into his ear and said breathlessly, "First uncle, why are you looking for me so urgently? I did not come to Hunluo province to sightsee." The yellow-robed man turned around and said with a smile, "Feng, I called you over this time to help our magnificent fiend hall with something. As you know, Azure Peak City is the city closest to the Tianwu domain in Hunluo province. The magnificent fiend hall has long been interested in this city." The sloppy youth with the single word, "Feng," removed his finger from his ear and casually flicked it a few times. He said lazily, "What does it have to do with me? You joined the magnificent fiend hall and no longer have anything to do with our giant ape race." The yellow-robed man felt somewhat frustrated in his heart. He said, "Little brat, you have already grown up, and your wings have hardened. Now that you have the title of Little Heavenly Monkey, have you forgotten how I raised you?" Feng's lips twitched as he stood up from the huge rock. He said helplessly, "Very well, tell me what you have to say. If it does not interfere with my matters, I can do it in passing." The yellow-robed man smiled and said, "Help me kill someone. Of course, if everything goes smoothly, you might not need to do anything." Feng's bright eyes stared at the yellow-robed man and said, "Kill someone? Given your cultivation as an inferior-grade martial sage, you still need me to help you kill someone?" The yellow-robed man said softly, "Sometimes, there are some tacit understandings that cannot be broken. With my status, if I were to kill a junior genius, Bushin Palace will definitely find trouble with me. The Fiend Domain's Sky Fiend Palace will also find trouble with me." The situation was easy to understand. The major races were hostile to each other due to the competition for resources and other issues, but they also had their own tacit understanding. If your family sends out their older generation experts to kill the younger generation geniuses on my side, and my side does the same, then the two families can forget about developing. Sooner or later, there would be a shortage of successors, and their legacies would be severed. They would all perish. The matters of the younger generation should be left to the younger generation. If there were no great benefits, no one would break this unspoken tacit understanding. I have already contacted Wu Yuankai, one of the 10 great evildoers of the Hunluo province. This kind of loose cultivator does not fear anything. If he fails, you will have to take action." The yellow-robed man said indifferently. Feng shrugged his shoulders and said, "Up to you. However, I am curious, who exactly are you going to kill? Even after inviting the 10 evils, you are still worried. Could it be the 7 giants of the Tianwu domain? Don't worry. They are not at that level yet. Just wait for my news. If I do not come looking for you in 10 days, the mission will end." The yellow-robed man leaped off the peak and vanished from Feng's sight. Feng, the genius cultivator of the giant ape race, who was known as the Little Heavenly Monkey in the Fiend domain, had messy hair and loose robes. He smiled and said, "How disappointing. If it were not the 7 giants, this mission would be very boring." At this moment, Xiaoqin did not know that someone had killed Situ Lei and Lu Chen for him, creating a huge disaster for himself. He was currently rushing to his next destination, the Hunluo province's provincial capital. After that, he would make a trip to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's headquarters to see if the Eternal Heavenly Sword School had any connection to the Thunder King. Along the way, Xiaoqin gained a better understanding of the Hunluo province. This Hunluo province actually had 6 rank 8 sections. This surpassed Xiaoqian's expectations. Chapter 744. Rank 8 sects were considered strong factions in the Tianwu domain. They were all in the same province. Who knew how intense the competition would be? The founder of this Eternal Heavenly Sword School is really shameless. Unexpectedly, he said that he created the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadows sword. I really want to know who this Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage is. Ao Jiao said angrily from the Immortal Spirit Ring. Along the way, Xiaoqin met several Eternal Heavenly Sword School disciples. When they spoke, they all respected this founder of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. They said that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School was an absolute genius. Not only did he establish the Eternal Heavenly Sword School from scratch, but he also created several exquisite sword techniques. In the end, when Ao Jiao heard this, she flew into a rage. The sword techniques that the other party mentioned, including the Thunder Light Fleeing Shadows sword, were all comprehended by the Thunder King himself when he was young. Along the way, Xiaoqin had heard Ao Jiao's complaints several times. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't say any more. That Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage is probably dead already. There is no point in you cursing at him." Ao Jiao said calmly, "That person was already a martial sage 2,000 years ago. If he broke through to Emperor Wu, even if he was a minor Heavenly Emperor Wu, he would have no problem living for another 2,000 years. Xiaoqin shook his head and said, "That is impossible. If he became Emperor Wu, he would shake up the entire place. No other faction would be able to set foot in Hunluo province. The most important thing is that the Eternal Heavenly Sword School disciples did not say that he became a martial emperor. If he really became a martial emperor, he would flaunt it. What you say makes sense. However, I feel that this is too much of a coincidence. 2,000 years ago, right after the Thunder King fell, this Eternal Heavenly Sword School was established. If he did not want to become a martial emperor, why would he establish a sect for no reason? Establishing a sect is for the sake of obtaining resources to become a martial emperor." Ao Jiao's expression turned grave. Her suspicions of this Eternal Heavenly Sword School increased. Xiaoqin noticed the main point in Ao Jiao's words. He asked, "What does establishing a sect have to do with breaking through to Emperor Wu?" Ao Jiao explained, "Some people with insufficient talent and luck will establish a sect and gather vast resources to forcefully break through to martial emperor. However, this kind of martial emperor's cultivation will forever be stuck at the minor celestial realm, unable to advance any further. Furthermore, the risks are equally high, and the resources required are astronomical. For some people, the gains do not make up for the losses." He glanced at Hunluo City, which was already in sight. Then, he stopped and said, "Actually, by now, you should tell me how the Thunder Emperor fell back then." Inside the Immortal Spirit Ring, Ao Jiao remained silent for a long time. It was like she was unwilling to recall that period of the past. After a long time, she slowly said, "There are indeed some things that I have to tell you." Xiaoqin had always been suspicious about the Thunder King's death. As the youngest sovereign martial emperor since the Qing Emperor, Sangmu had swept through the Kunlun realm unhindered. Practically no one in the same generation could match him. On the path of cultivation, those who could become Emperor Wu were usually people with great luck. Barring any accidents, they would not fall for no reason. This was even more so for someone like the Thunder Emperor. Since he could be conferred king, he would definitely not die by accident. Back then, in the Blue Dragon Palace, when the mysterious item spirit mentioned the Thunder King, it was full of praise. The first thing it asked Xiaoqin was if the Thunder King was the strongest sovereign martial emperor. After learning of the Thunder King's death, the stunned expression on the Thunder King's face did not seem to be feigned. Ao Jiao revealed a somewhat sorrowful expression. She said softly. Back then, when Sang Mu advanced to sovereign martial emperor, he could not wait to challenge the Thunder King, one of the strongest sovereign martial emperors in the Tianwu domain. The Thunder King was a title. He was the founder of the Thunder and Lightning Palace, a sovereign martial emperor of the same generation as the Qing Emperor. He was also one of the oldest Emperor Wu of the Kunlun realm. Many people said that the Thunder King was the strongest of the human race. Even the Holy Lord of the Three Holy Masters was not as strong as him. Of course, rumors were just rumors. No one could take them seriously. Furthermore, the Thunder King had already lived for more than 10,000 years and had not shown himself for a very long time. No one knew whether he was dead or alive. Sang Mu was known as the Thunder King. Now that he advanced to sovereign martial emperor, he naturally wanted the Thunder King's title. However, the title was not bestowed by oneself. One had to have the corresponding strength for the title to be acknowledged by the world. Hence, there would definitely be a battle between Sang Mu and the Thunder King, one of the strongest Emperor Wu of the human race. Having just been conferred king, Sang Mu challenged a sovereign of the same generation as the Qing Emperor. Such boldness was something to look forward to. Xiaochen asked somewhat anxiously, did he win or lose? Ao Jiao revealed a pained expression. She muttered, he lost. The Thunder King's Sang Mu's sword was broken by that old fellow, the Thunder King. Xiaochen said somewhat dispiritedly, in that case, the Thunder King was killed by the Thunder King. Ao Jiao shook her head and said, no, that old fellow, the Thunder King, only broke the Sang Mu's sword and severely injured the Thunder King. However, he did not kill him. He even said that this was an unfair victory and invited the Thunder King to fight him again in 100 years. Xiaochen asked doubtfully, in that case, who killed him? I am not very clear on the specifics either. The instant the Sang Mu's sword broke, I fell into a deep sleep, in danger of dying at any moment. At some point in time, crystalline tears appeared in the corners of Ao Jiao's eyes. She said, when I woke up, not only did the Thunder King not recover from his injuries, they even worsened, becoming fatal. At that time, I was so frightened that I started crying. He told me not to cry. When I asked him who did this to him, he did not say anything. He only said that he was betrayed by a vile person and that he had let me down. After that, he went to the Phoenix's Passion Palace, hoping to ask for a divine moonlight stone to protect me. However, he got into an argument with their young palace master. In his rage, the Thunder King dragged his dying body and killed their young palace master. He forcefully snatched away the divine moonlight stone. The Holy Lord of the Phoenix's Passion Palace planted a vermilion bird holy fire imprint on him, causing him to self-destruct. After Xiaochen heard Ao Jiao's story, he finally understood the whole story. On the surface, the Thunder King appeared to have been killed by the Holy Lord of the Phoenix's Passion Palace. However, in reality, he was already dead. If he were at his peak, the Phoenix's Passion Palace's palace master might not have been able to kill the Thunder King. The crux of this should be the period after the Thunder King's defeat, when Ao Jiao was asleep. How exactly did the Thunder King's injuries become fatal? Clearly, the Thunder King did not want to tell Ao Jiao about this, so Xiaochen had no way of knowing. Xiaochen thought about the Thunder King's life. He came from a humble background and became famous at a young age. Along the way, the deeds he left behind in the Sky Dome realm became a legend. After he arrived in the Kunlun realm, he was like a fish in water. He was like a bound Kunpeng finally unfurling its wings, larger than the sky. He distinguished himself from the many lower realm geniuses and defeated the disciples of the various noble clans of the Tianwu domain. After he advanced to martial emperor, he rose up completely. From then on, he rampaged through the Kunlun realm, inspiring fear in Emperor Wu of the various races. Such a fall was truly regrettable. If the Thunder King had not died, he would definitely be the strongest sovereign martial emperor in the Tianwu domain 2,000 years later. Looking at Hunluo City in the distance, Xiaochen did not know what to say. Unexpectedly, the Thunder King's death was so strange. Who exactly was the villain that the Thunder King spoke of? Who caused his injuries to become fatal? Xiao Chen did not know where to start investigating. Even if he knew, he would not be able to do anything about it. Given Xiao Chen's current strength, even 1,000 of him would not be a match for the person who could injure the Thunder King. No wonder Ao Jiao had not been willing to tell Xiao Chen. Before he was strong enough, even if he knew some things, he could only treat them as stories. It did not matter whether he told her or not. Sorry, I made you recall some sad memories, Xiao Chen said with some guilt when he saw the tears in Ao Jiao's eyes. Ao Jiao gently wiped away the tears in her eyes and forced a smile. It's fine. Some things have been bottled up in my heart for too long. Since I can say them, it means that I can walk out of them. Xiao Chen looked ahead with a resolute gaze. He said seriously, don't worry. I will definitely help you investigate the cause of the Thunder King's death. Who is the one behind this? The truth will come to light one day. Ao Jiao smiled and said, don't seek trouble for yourself. The Thunder King did not tell me back then. It must have been because his opponent was too strong and he did not want anyone to take revenge for him. Let's go. After we go to the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, we will immediately head for the Fiend Domain. You have your own path to walk as well. Xiao Chen did not say anything more. He only remembered this promise in his heart. In the future, when he climbed to the peak, he would personally kill the Thunder King's enemies. The strongest human martial emperor in the Tianwu domain, the Thunder King. Sooner or later, Xiao Chen would pay a visit and defeat the other party, fulfilling the Thunder King's final wish. Before the sky turned dark, Xiao Chen arrived at the city gates of Hunluo City. Hunluo City was no less majestic than Haotian City. In fact, it was even more majestic. This startled Xiao Chen. It was hard to imagine that this was the provincial capital of a border province. It was even more majestic than the provincial capitals of several major provinces in the Tianwu domain. After entering the city, Xiao Chen saw a different scene. Unexpectedly, the entire street was filled with cultivators. Furthermore, they all revealed killing qi, their gazes ferocious. If there was any conflict or argument, they would immediately start fighting. The scene was intense, but no one stopped them. The people here also seemed to be used to it. They watched with great interest and made comments from time to time. They seemed rather excited. Along the way, Xiao Chen saw several duels. Those who lost did not have a good ending. They all died on the street, their treasures snatched away. There were even some people who kept an eye on the cultivators entering the city. When they discovered any unfamiliar cultivator who was not strong or was alone, they immediately swarmed over. The entire city was so chaotic that there was no order to it. Everyone spoke with their fists. The law of the jungle was clear for all to see. Xiao Chen did not want to cause any trouble, so he released his dense killing qi. Only then did he manage to intimidate the crowd, deterring them from acting rashly. After all, such a dense killing qi was not something an ordinary person could accumulate. With one look, it was clear that this person was someone who frequently walked the line between life and death. After finding a random inn, Xiao Chen ordered a table full of food and wine. Then, he called the waiter in and tossed out 5 astral coins. He said, I have some questions for you. Answer them honestly. The waiter received the 5 astral coins and said with a smile, young hero, if you have anything to say, feel free to tell me. Xiao Chen nodded and said, tell me about Hunluo City's situation. Also, tell me how much you know about the Eternal Heavenly Sword School. When the waiter heard that, he immediately started talking. His words were very nimble. Although he had a lot of vocabulary, he was not long-winded at all. Soon, Xiao Chen gained a rough understanding of Hunluo City. Clearly, this was not the waiter's first time speaking like this. However, when he spoke about the Eternal Heavenly Sword School, he was not as nimble. Chapter 745. Xiao already had a rough idea of what the waiter said, so he could not help but feel disappointed. The waiter could tell that Xiao wanted him to leave, so he said, "Young hero, there is a piece of news that you will definitely be interested in." Xiao raised his head and asked, "What is it?" He. About this." The waiter hesitated. Xiao understood what he meant and gave him another 5 astral coins. The waiter said happily, "Young hero is indeed a straightforward person. In that case, I'll be direct. The Eternal Heavenly Sword School is preparing to auction off a broken sword. It is a fragment of a subdivine weapon." When Xiao heard that, he raised his eyebrows slightly. He said, "Subdivine weapons are worth cities. Even Emperor Wu would be interested. A fragment of a subdivine weapon would be worth a lot as well. It would attract some martial sages. However, this is not really big news." The waiter smiled mysteriously and said, "What if it is the sword that the Thunder King used back then?" Right after the waiter spoke, Xiao and Ao Jiao, who was in the immortal spirit ring, were stunned at the same time, clearly shocked. Xiao remembered that when he obtained the Thunderwood sword back then, he only had half of it. The other half was nowhere to be found. Why is the other half of the sword in their hands? Ao Jiao exclaimed excitedly from the immortal spirit ring. "Xiao, ask around and see if it is true." Seeing that Xiao did not believe him, the waiter quickly said, "This insignificant one does not dare to lie." In the past few years, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School has occasionally auctioned off some treasures with sky-high prices. They are all worth cities. Other sects would definitely hide them, but the Eternal Heavenly Sword School sold them. Xiao raised his wine cup and took a sip. He revealed a pondering expression. According to what the waiter said, the Eternal Heavenly Sword School's actions were very strange. What is the name of the auction house? When is it being held? Xiao did not know about this. Since he did, he would definitely go and see if there was a chance to obtain the other half of the sword. However, the chances were slim. After all, it was just a fragment of a subdivine weapon. That half was already worth cities. The materials needed to forge a subdivine weapon were all rare resources. Many of them were treasures that could only be found by luck. Once one missed it, one would have to wait for hundreds of years. After the subdivine weapon was forged, it would interest several martial sages. This was especially so for the sects preparing to forge a subdivine weapon. They would spend a lot to buy it. Once the subdivine weapon was successfully forged, the owner's strength would immediately increase by 50%. It would not seem exaggerated at all. Furthermore, this divine weapon was once the sword of the Thunder Emperor, which added to its legend. Given Xiao wealth, competing with these people was not realistic. It was not to compete with the Qin about it. The about it, not it said, Chen, with, the Chen, would not have it. On the 30th of the month, that would be the day after tomorrow. It wouldn't take long. Xiao waved his hand and dismissed the waiter. Then, he said to Ao Jiao in his heart, "What do you think? Why is the remaining half of the sword in the hands of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School?" Waving his hand, Xiao dismissed the waiter. Then, he said to Ao Jiao in his heart, "What do you think? How did the other half of the sword end up in the hands of the Eternal Heavenly Sword School? You mean to say that the Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage betrayed the Thunder King back then?" Xiao asked probingly as he put down his wine cup. Ao Jiao shook her head slightly and said, "Not necessarily. Given the Eternal Heavenly Sword Sage's strength back then, even if the Thunder King was severely injured, he could have easily killed him." Xiao said somewhat helplessly, "What should I do with the other half of the sword? With my current wealth, it would be very difficult to obtain it. His competitors would definitely be martial sages." Compared to martial sages, Xiao 100,000 astral coins paled in comparison. He had no chance of winning. Ao Jiao did not seem to care about this. She sighed softly and said, "We'll leave it to fate. We just need to pay attention to who obtains it in the end. Perhaps there will be a chance to get it back in the future." When the lunar shadow saber advances to a subdivine weapon, it will save us a lot of trouble. After eating and drinking, Xiaochen rented an independent courtyard at the back of the inn for peace and quiet. When the sky turned dark, a cultivator from the magnificent Fiend Hall arrived in the most chaotic area of Hunluo City, the Western District. This cultivator walked over in fear and trepidation. After looking around, he found his destination and carefully arrived at a courtyard. The Western District was filled with ferocious loose cultivators. If not for the magnificent Fiend Hall's identity token, he would not have been able to enter this district as a medial-grade martial monarch. When this cultivator saw the doors before him, horror flashed in his eyes. Wu Yuankai, one of Hunluo City's 10 evildoers, lived in this courtyard. The 10 evildoers were all great bandits of the Tianwu domain and the Fiend domain. Even the weakest of them was a half-sage. The top 3 evildoers were even martial sages. The 6 great sects of Hunluo City would not casually offend these 3. This cultivator calmed himself and carefully knocked on the door knocker a few times. Then, he said loudly, "Senior Wu, I am a disciple of the magnificent Fiend Hall. The news you are waiting for has arrived." As for using the dragon tone art to deal with the deity race experts, Xiaochen did not dare to be too presumptuous. After all, he had not seen the deity race's mental energy martial techniques before. Naturally, the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram was the best trump card for Xiaochen. This Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram could easily block the full-powered strikes of 2 half-sages. Its potential was limitless. During these 3 days, Xiaochen made a simple assessment of his strength. This could be considered a summary of his overall strength after his fight with Lu Chen and Situlei. On the surface, my weakness appears to be my insufficient cultivation. However, it is actually my will. Xiaochen withdrew his saber and calmly analyzed the situation. Actually, the cultivation of the 7 giants was about the same. However, Bai Wuxue and the others were several times weaker than in Juanxi. There were many reasons for this. However, the most important one was that in Juanxi's will far surpassed theirs. Although their cultivations were the same, their strength was on a completely different level. In fact, several inferior-grade martial sages were no longer a match for Juanxi. The most crucial thing is to comprehend a will. After this trip, I have to rush to the place that Ao Jiao mentioned. Who is it? Hiding there, acting sneakily. Suddenly, Xiaochen's expression changed. He turned around and retreated 100 meters. Then, he placed his right hand on his saber hilt and stared coldly at Wu Yuankai, who was standing on the wall. Wu Yuankai looked at Xiaochen and silently landed on the ground. He smiled sinisterly and said, "Your vigilance is pretty good. Unfortunately, you are going to be a dead man soon." Wu Yuankai did not look particularly old, he looked like a middle-aged man. However, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes and the vicissitudes of life in his eyes gave off a feeling of lethargy. Wu Yuankai's large black robes wrapped around his body tightly. He wore a pair of dark gold gloves on his hands. Wu Yuankai. Wu Yuankai. Wu Yuankai. There was clearly nothing around Wu Yuankai's body, but occasionally, miserable cries could be heard. In the quiet night, the miserable cries tugged at the taut strings in the minds of cultivators. When this person landed, Xiaochen took advantage of the opportunity to retreat another 200 meters. He looked at the other party with a grave expression, not daring to be careless. Xiaochen's mental energy was vast and boundless, and his spiritual sense was very sharp. Normally, he would be able to discover a hostile cultivator within a kilometer of him. However, Wu Yuankai only got within 100 meters of Xiaochen before he was discovered. If Xiaochen had been any later, he might have been killed in a sneak attack. Occasionally, the disturbing cries resounded. Although Xiaochen was not greatly affected, he kept feeling that something was wrong. Xiaochen tried to focus his spiritual sense in his eyes. When he squinted, he discovered 10 odd scarlet ribbons of light that were hard to see with the naked eye surrounding Wu Yuankai. The ribbons of light were as fine as needles and thread. As they circled Wu Yuankai, they undulated like waves. As the scarlet ribbons of light moved, the spiritual energy of the world scattered and gathered like rain. As the scarlet ribbons of light moved, the spiritual energy of the world scattered and gathered like rain. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.